Or improve your outdoor activities with a Rollator walker. Mars Medical has over 7 models of Rollator walkers on the floor for purchase. Make this summer one to remember with help from Mars Medical on the north side of Route 30 between Cedar and Vine Road in New Lenox. Or go to marsmedicalsupply.com. Mars Medical, customer care that is out of this world.
Foundations of Freedom, a look at America's founding principles and the leaders who shaped our nation.
In 1862, Abraham Lincoln signed the Morrill Act, helping states create colleges focused on agriculture, mechanics, science, and practical education. The principle was not centralized control, it was opportunity. Lincoln's Morrill Act reminds us that America can support education without surrendering education to Washington. Why did it matter? Because a free nation needs citizens equipped to work, build, steward, and govern themselves. Scripture gives work a sacred weight. In Genesis, God placed man in the garden to work it and to keep it. Proverbs honors the one who works his land. Paul warns against idleness and calls believers to earn their bread. Why does that still matter today? Because education should form capable people under God, not dependent subjects under bureaucracy.
Signature Bank is Chicago's fastest growing independently owned business bank, a bank where relationships still matter. Signature Bank knows your name and your story. I'm Dan Proft, and I know this because Signature Bank is my business bank.
Hi, I'm Phil Silverman, CFO of Chicago Atlantic and a client of Signature. We provide capital solutions in markets where risk is often fundamentally mispriced and traditional financing can be limited. In fast-moving businesses like ours, you need more than technology. You need people who are engaged and responsive. Ahead of an important and complex transaction closing, Signature promptly assisted us in addressing a wire issue, helping us administer the closing on time while maintaining best-in-class control oversight. That kind of hands-on attention is hard to find, and that's why we value our relationship with Signature.
Signature Bank helps local businesses succeed. Want to learn how Signature Bank can help turn your business vision into reality? Call Signature Bank at 773-467-5600 or visit signaturebank.bank. Member FDIC, Equal Housing Lender.
This is an important notice to all U.S. taxpayers. The IRS is giving away billions of dollars in tax savings through a federal program called the Fresh Start Initiative to aid delinquent taxpayers. This initiative was established for anyone facing financial hardship and unable to pay their back taxes. Qualifying and enrolling in this program will stop all collections, settle your delinquent tax problem, and even reduce what you owe by thousands of dollars. Call the hotline at People's Tax Relief to see if you qualify and get this free information by dialing 800-431-2715. If you have unfiled tax returns or cannot afford to pay your personal or business back taxes, you can now get the help you need. One simple phone call can resolve your tax problem and save you thousands of dollars. To see if you qualify and to get this important free information, call 800-431-2715. 800-431-2715. 800-431-2715.
This is Ed Morrissey of HotAir.com for Town Hall. New York has recently created their version of Canada's assisted suicide regimen, and it has put religious providers squarely in its crosshairs. Several groups have banded together to stop the medical aid in dying legislation as it forces them to participate in suicide. Hochul tried to deny this, claiming that faith-based providers can opt out of the program. Catholic nuns discovered, however, that the law requires all providers to coordinate assisted suicide in their facilities and to give access to doctors performing it. Starting next month, any healthcare provider who declines to prescribe suicide pills could still have to tell terminally ill patients about their right to kill themselves, help them meet the requirements for obtaining suicide pills, and direct them to a provider willing to prescribe the lethal drugs. The death cult on the left continues to expand its reach and its authoritarianism. We need to stand with the Catholic Sisters, again, and fight for life. I'm Ed Morrissey.
Maybe you've thought about taking a cruise. Maybe you've even talked yourself out of it. But this is not just another vacation. This is the Gulf of America cruise. 7 days through the Caribbean with Mike Gallagher, Scott Jennings, Larry O'Connor, Jennifer Horn, and a ship full of people who love this country. No packing and unpacking, no complicated planning, just great destinations, meaningful conversations, and a once-in-a-generation celebration of America's 250th. This November, be there. Text CRUISE to 94878 to book your cabin today.
If you've saved $100,000 or more for retirement, call Steve Shyman today at 833-945-7283. That's 833-WILL-SAVE. 833-WILSAVE. Schedule your no-cost, no-obligation retirement review and make sure your plan is built to protect what you've worked so hard to earn. And don't forget to listen to Steve's show, Protecting Your Assets, Saturday mornings at 8 a.m. right here on AM 560. Call now, 833-945-7283.
Patrick was way behind on his IRS taxes.
I was in way over my head. The total amount ended up being somewhere just over $30,000. $30,000.
Then the IRS came to collect.
Started getting letter after letter. A lien had been filed against me. They were going to basically hang me completely out to dry.
He had to do something.
That's when I reached out to Optima Tax Relief.
Patrick's life quickly got a lot easier.
It was very easy, pretty much hands off. They picked up the ball and ran with it.
And how'd it go?
I couldn't believe it. I had to ask 2 or 3 times. I saved an incredible amount of money.
How does Patrick feel about Optima?
Couldn't be happier. They definitely helped me. Optima Tax Relief, the best place to call. They're the best in the business.
Do what Patrick did and call Optima Tax Relief for a free consultation. Call 800-965-1433. 800-965-1433. 800-965-1433.
Optima Tax Relief.
Testimonial from an actual client. Some restrictions apply. For complete details, please visit OptimaTaxRelief.com.
Now, your official weather forecast.
Today will be hazy and breezy with the chance of a shower in some areas this afternoon, reaching a high of 85. Tonight will be partly cloudy and cooler with a low of 59. Tomorrow, expect hazy sunshine and lower humidity with a high of 77. I'm meteorologist Jason Caterina on AM 560, The Answer.
Get the latest weather, traffic, and news updates online at 560theanswer.com.
Portions of the following show may be pre-recorded.
This hourly segment brought to you by Unleash Your Wealth with Raj Shah and Rick Borick this Saturday at 7 a.m. and 2 p.m. Learn more at scwealthadvisors.com.
Now, from the Signature Bank Studios. This is Chicago's Morning Answer with Dan Proft on AM 560. The Answer.
Top of the morning, Dan Proft here. So President Trump wants to punish Canada for its land management practices and adherence to eco-supremacist, cultist ideology that in part contributed to the wildfires again this year, and thus the poor air quality that has made its way down to Chicagoland over the last week. Are you one of those people that's, or do you know someone, more likely, that is become an overnight air pollution expert the same way they became an overnight epidemiologist during COVID? Are they telling you about our AQI scores on a daily basis, watching these mouth-breathing meteorologists on the network affiliates giving us the score today is 101 to 150, and that means what? I don't know. No idea. We've put some terminology, we've put some labels by these score ranges to give you an indication of severity. What are you supposed to do about it? Keep on keeping on, I suppose. Dust off the old masks for the appearance of protection, the delusion of protection. Anyway, on the tariffs, Trump previously telegraphed that they were coming, and they came yesterday.
I mean, you got to stop these fires from coming in and, poisoning our air. Our air has been poisoned. I have a good relationship with Mark Carney, but, we got to stop the fires up there. If we can help them, we'll help them. But maybe they should pay us some damages or something, or we should do some tariffs. But it was terrible. I mean, you had businesses closing. In particular, Michigan, if you look at Detroit, Michigan area, they had to close everything. They had to close car plants and a lot of other things. So I've never remembered this happening. Over the last 4 or 5 years, you saw it starting to take place. I've never remembered it happening before.
And so 50% tariffs imposed, at least rhetorically, on most Canadian goods, declaring that Canada has unfairly discriminated against American autos, alcohol, and dairy products. That was sort of part of the cover story, but you just heard him talking about punishing Canada for the impact of the Canadian wildfires on the central part of the United States in particular. The 50% tariffs would exclude energy products, fish, critical minerals, but they would include hockey sticks. So there you go. 312-642-5600, alphawealthgroup.com. Call and text line. There's this 30-day window for the Canadians in the U.S. to negotiate, to come to some sort of arrangement to avoid the imposition here. But I got to say, and I know some people will disagree, but this is a little bit a guy with a hammer who sees every problem as a nail. First of all, I don't think the relationship with Mark Carney is that great. I still think they're fairly sensitive about being labeled a good prospect to be America's 51st state, among other disagreements. Number one. Number two, if you do have this good relationship, then why don't you work something out directly with Mark Carney on this limited issue, as opposed to punishing American consumers, which is what tariffs do, which is what taxes do, because that's what a tariff is. To immediately go to that sort of policy change that has potentially wide-ranging, even short-term impacts on major industries and consumer purchasing power doesn't seem like the appropriate response to this. But that's me. Craig in Mount Greenwood, you're on Chicago's Morning Answer.
Hey, thank you, Dan, for taking my call. Why does it seem like all these leftist areas where they have these big, gigantic forests and things like California and then here in Canada and that, they do exactly the opposite of what they're supposed to do as far as taking care of those forestry areas? They let it all just get all piled up with the dry stuff on the bottom, and then all bunched up in there. They don't cut any clear areas out between them so that if you have a forest fire, they just leave it all go until you get a fire in that. Are they doing this stuff on purpose?
I don't think so. But, I don't think there's any evidence of that. Like I said, I think it's a slavish adherence to unsensible land management policies, like Newsom. It's a good comparison. I don't think they're doing it on purpose. I think to some extent this is, beyond the control of any particular politician. But their poor land management policies certainly exacerbate the problem. So the response should be, as I said, either a direct discussion with the Canadian government about what they're going to do to make, for example, Detroit whole, and give us free passes to a private screening of Strange Brew or something here in Chicago to make up for the damage they've done here, or just follow Parker and Stone and just ridicule the Canadians, which is so much easier.
Rain Canada, it seems that everything's gone wrong since Canada came along. Rain Canada.
They're not even a real country anyway.
See, if Trump just posted that on Truth Social, I think that would be sufficient to enrage the Canadians, and Rob Ford and Mark Carney would get together and we'd figure it out. That's my thought on it. Marvin in Burlington, Wisconsin.
Good morning, Dan. When did smoke from a fire become weather?
Yeah, right.
It's like, oh God, it's part of. They insinuate it's part of global warming, and we're all going to die.
Well, that was, thanks for the call, Marvin. That was exactly my reaction over the weekend, and the responses I got were really interesting. I posted on X, I'm enjoying all the loose talk about the air quality index I just mentioned from the same people who who were overnight epidemiologists a few years back. Did you hear the hazardous air score on a scale I didn't know existed 5 minutes ago is between 300 and 500? I have no frame of reference or knowledge on the substance of the matter, but since I'm easily frightened, I'll be completely credulous of the government media science complex's pronouncements and will not only immediately comply, but demagogue those who do not. This is like, it was interesting to watch the madness of crowds and the craven busybodies who seek to lord over them immediately spring into action for whatever they could get out of this in the short term. And still, because, the weather, it was a little hazy in Chicago yesterday too. So it's still going. And I got all these sort of responses from that busybody set that I just mentioned along the lines of, go out and take a jog, man. You're missing the point. You're missing the point. The point is not, did it reduce air quality? Did it introduce additional pollutants into the atmosphere for a short period of time? Yeah. The COVID virus was real too. The discussion is about the response. And the response from safetyists is always to dramatically overreach without sufficient evidence and attempt to berate and or shame anyone seeking proportionality into silence, then walk away from the carnage, really slink away from the carnage, after they can no longer sustain general fear until their next opportunity arises. And that's what you see with this business. It's asinine. And I mean, how do you even take the Canadians seriously when their assembled fire prevention, management, response professionals lead a big conference in front of the press with this?
Well, good morning. And as president of the Canadian Association of Fire Chiefs, I want to begin by acknowledging the presence here on the unceded and unsurrendered territories of the Anishinaabe and the Algonquin people.
Okay, all right. We're going to need somebody else on the job here. George in Naperville.
Yes, Stan, to get back at Canada, we are boycotting all Gordon Lightfoot music in our home.
You're just punishing yourself, George. I got to tell you. I could have gone along with Alan Thicke or even Alanis Morissette, but I don't think you want to punish yourself by not listening to Gordon Lightfoot.
Anne Marie too.
Hear about the big stories of the day, then talk about them right here on Chicago's Morning Answer on AM 560. The Answer.
I'm Gary Carr, retired homicide detective and the owner of Illinois Concealed Carry Training in Midlothian. For 10 years, we've helped more than 20,000 students become safe, responsible, and confident firearm owners. If you're looking to get your Illinois Concealed Carry license or need to renew, now is the perfect time. Our law enforcement-led training gives you the knowledge and skills to protect yourself and your family. Our 16-hour concealed carry class includes live fire training, one-on-one coaching, Illinois and Florida certification for expanded reciprocity, range qualification, and a full-color textbook. We provide the firearm, ammunition, eye and ear protection, targets, and range access. Need a renewal? Our 3-hour renewal class keeps you legal and current on Illinois firearm laws. Thousands of students have trusted us for professional instruction, flexible scheduling, and exceptional value. Illinois Concealed Carry Training in Midlothian for classes, less lethal options, and self-defense legal plans. Visit us at concealedcarrychicago.com to reserve your seat today. That's concealedcarrychicago.com, concealedcarrychicago.com.
AM 560, The Answer.
Well, that was right on cue, wasn't it? Marco Rubio's speech about the threat posed by leftist-inspired political violence, and we have an attempted firebombing of the ICE offices in Manhattan. We'll pick it up there at 5:38. Now we check the headlines with Mike Scott.
5:31, 75 degrees. We've had a couple of rain showers through the area this morning, but not a lot. Hazy and a steady breeze. And maybe a shower again this afternoon, a high of 84. One person is in custody after a Chicago police officer was shot on the northwest side.
We got a female shot. A male shot her outside the home.
And police responded to that home in the 4600 block of North Springfield Avenue, where a woman had been shot. She was sent to the hospital in critical condition. Then the suspect held 2 others at gunpoint inside the home. Chicago's SWAT was then called to the scene.
As they began to try to breach that door, that offender fired through the door and wall and struck the SWAT officer in the lower abdomen.
That SWAT officer was taken to the hospital, shot in the stomach, and according to Interim Superintendent Fred Waller this morning, is in stable condition.
After talking to the surgeon, he's expected to make a full recovery. Yeah, he went in emergency surgery in Illinois Masonic Hospital. They did a great job with him.
The suspect eventually taken into custody, and the 2 hostages were hospitalized with non-life-threatening injuries. Police are looking for 2 persons of interest after a shooting in North Suburban Highland Park. Shooting happened yesterday in the 300 block of Walker. 1 person was sent to the hospital. Brand new investigative reporting revealed last week that Illinois House Speaker Chris Welch knew of the misconduct by a now resigned lawmaker far longer than previously known, raising questions from many about Welch's commitment to safe working environments in Springfield. The Chicago Tribune investigation detailed the Speaker's office was made aware of reported misconduct by Harry Benton as early as 2023, yet they delayed any action on the matter until this year. Previously, Governor J.B. Pritzker has consistently said he's not seen the reporting on Benton, but believes the process is working.
And I think that's a process that, I mean, obviously when the speaker is calling for someone's resignation or the possibility of expulsion, that process seems to be working, even if we all think that it could happen faster.
On the other hand, House Minority Leader Republican Tony McCombie says the investigative reporting brings into question what Democrat leadership knew and for how long.
The public still has not seen the report, yet the Speaker declared the process worked. This is not accountability. The victims and the public deserve transparency.
A legislative commission may not have that report on Benton's behavior before their next meeting, and it may be months before the public actually sees a report. Meantime, in light of the Benton resignation, Democrats in Will and Kendall counties have chosen the granddaughter of late U.S. Senator Alan Dixon to replace Benton. Jessica Dixon Heitman will fill the seat and serve as the Democrats' nominee in the November general election for the Southwest suburban seat. Benton again resigned earlier this month over sexual harassment allegations. Alan Dixon represented Illinois in the U.S. Senate from 1981 to 1993. Chicago sports, Tigers opened their 3-game set with an 8-6 extra inning win over the Cubs at Wrigley, while the White Sox continue red hot, taking down the Rangers 10-3 in Arlington. The news a service of Lowe's. Pro Rewards members save more during Lowe's Pro Saving Days. Save up to 20% on in-stock molding when you spend $250 and up to 20% on in-stock pre-hung interior doors when you buy 6 or more. Valid through 7/31 while supplies last. Selection varies. See Lowe's.com for details. Chicago's Morning Answer continues next, and in 2 minutes, a check on the AccuWeather forecast in the Air Right Heating and Cooling Weather Center.
Larry Elder can't understand the thinking.
Zohran Mamdani, with a popularity of 44%, is more popular than Bibi Netanyahu, who's been accused by Mamdani of being a war criminal. Yet American Jews have a more positive view of Mamdani than they do among Bibi Netanyahu. Scotty, beam me up.
The Larry Elder Show. Weeknights at 8, right before Sean Hannity at 10 on AM 560. The Answer.
John was an active man. He'd go for runs, walk the golf course, and always take the stairs instead of the elevator. But then bone-on-bone knee pain got in the way.
Ow!
And affected his mobility. It became too painful to even go for walks. And when it seemed like John's only option was knee replacement surgery, a friend told him about the Joint Relief Institute and their affordable, non-surgical knee pain relief. John met with the Joint Relief Institute and discovered their lubricating gel treatment could rejuvenate his lost cartilage. Safe, effective, no surgery. Long story short, John is now back to being active without pain or medication.
There is an alternative to knee replacement surgery. Stop living in pain. Call the Joint Relief Institute today, 708-315-6800, or visit jointreliefinstitute.com. Locations in Glenview, Oak Brook, and Orland Park. That's 708-315-6800. Medicare and most private insurance plans accepted. Reclaim your mobility with the Joint Relief Institute.
Join Illinois Family Action for the Save America Rally, 7 p.m. Tuesday, August 4th at the Bolingbrook Golf Club. Former U.S. Comptroller General David M. Walker, along with businessman and author Joe Penland Sr., will offer big, bold, and practical solutions for fixing Social Security and protecting other vital programs from the reach of those who preach for communism in America. And during the Save America Rally, hopeful messages for the land of Lincoln from key Illinois candidates Darren Bailey for governor, Don Tracy for U.S. Senate, and James Martyr for Congress. Go to IllinoisFamilyAction.org for more information. IFA's David Smith.
Join us as we stand together to save America.
The Save America Rally is free. Be there Tuesday, August 4th at the Bolingbrook Golf Club. Find out more at IllinoisFamilyAction.org. Paid for by Illinois Family Action.
Scott Jennings fearlessly fights back against the mainstream media on the Scott Jennings podcast.
So the Democratic message for the 2026 midterm is, we don't love America. That's it. The message from the left is, as long as people that we don't like are allowed to win elections, we hate America. That's a heck of a thing to be running an election on. We hate America.
Subscribe for free today on Spotify, Apple, YouTube, or SalemPodcastNetwork.com.
Think O'Reilly Auto Parts for all your car care needs. Get the parts and service you need fast from the professional parts people at O'Reilly Auto Parts.
Now, your official weather forecast.
Today, expect hazy conditions with a breeze and a chance of showers in some areas during the afternoon. The high will reach 85. Tonight will be partly cloudy and cooler with a low of 59. Tomorrow, anticipate hazy sunshine and lower humidity levels with a high of 77. I'm meteorologist Jason Caterina on AM 560, The Answer.
Get the latest weather, traffic, and news updates online at 560theanswer.com.
This hourly segment is brought to you by Forever Remodeling, stress-free and high-quality remodeling. View their stunning transformations online at the number 4everremodeling.com.
Now, from the Signature Bank Studios. If you're looking for the latest news, insight into what it means, and the sharpest opinion, there's only one station in Chicago where you can turn, and it's this one. We're AM 560, The Answer.
Top of the morning, Dan Proft here. And so we talked about Marco Rubio's speech last week, quite a bit yesterday. And then, unfortunately, exactly what he was warning of reared its ugly head in a couple of different incidents yesterday. This is the blind spot that counterterrorism agencies in the West have had for a generation or two, minimized as it has been by the D.C. press corps, misdirected, the public's attention misdirected away from it as it was by craven politicians in the previous administration, for example, the Joe Obama years. Christopher Wray testifying before Congress time and again that white supremacy was the great domestic violence threat facing America. Here's what Rubio said about that blind spot.
You will no doubt see the dogma rear its head in the coverage of this very conference. In spite of the clear and the undeniable reality, in spite of the objective numbers and statistics, in spite of the fact that in this room today, there are representatives from across the political spectrum, we will hear this kind of organized violence and terror will be dismissed. It will be dismissed as a partisan fiction. A whole industry grew up in our countries around the study of extremism. We have think tanks and fellowships and journals and consultancies with the unspoken understanding among them that the only kind of political violence that was a true threat to our system, that only one kind of political violence was a true threat to the system. A bomb planted by a neo-Nazi group was a nefarious and murderous act of evil. It is. But a bomb planted by a Marxist revolutionary, well, that's just merely a tragic excess of idealism. Perhaps its means were misplaced or overzealous, but its ends were virtuous and just. That's the implication of how they treat it. For years, this extraordinary ideological prejudice was embedded in the way we talked about political violence and extremism. It was repeated again and again until it was accepted as the neutral and objective baseline, so entrenched in the mainstream conventional wisdom that it came to be regarded as an apolitical fact. It is the reason why, here in my country, so many people in positions of power have repeatedly dismissed acts of violence and even terrorism as legitimate forms of political expression, so long as they served a left-wing cause. It is why during those so-called George Floyd riots in the summer of 2020, as criminals and extremists burned and looted their way through America's great cities and nearly brought the country to its knees, city governments all across the country simply refused to prosecute the people conducting these acts of violence and terror.
And so yesterday in Manhattan, outside a building in which one of the ICE outposts resides. Well, I'll let FBI Assistant Director James Barnacle tell us what happened.
His goal was to target the building. He said that I'm not going to get into all the details of a post-arrest interview, but he was Mirandized, read his rights. He did agree to talk. In that post-arrest interview, he did say he was targeting the building and he was okay if he hurt or killed people going in and out of the building, whether they were federal employees or civilians. I would mention a lot of business was canceled, not by the Federal Protective Services. Federal Protective Services, once they mitigated the situation, the building remained open, employees could come and go, and we continue to do work. But some agencies decided to close business for the day. There was a naturalization ceremony scheduled for today that was canceled. And the one civilian victim was an immigrant that had a hearing today for their immigration status. So that's quite unfortunate and quite ironic at the same time.
Ironic on multiple levels that this domestic terrorist would injure an immigrant and in the name of combating ICE. And one, of course, going through the process to legally immigrate into this country. The FBI saying an individual employed an incendiary device. The suspect pushed a cart displaying a sign that read, quote, "ICE off our streets," unquote. The cart contained fireworks and 2 long firearms that appeared to be airsoft or pellet guns. Investigators believe the suspect ignited the fireworks, possibly using a flammable liquid, creating flames and smoke near the building's entrance. I mean, you see it on camera. He poured out some sort of flammable liquid and he lit it on fire and then he ran. Officials also reported the suspect allegedly threatened pedestrians with the apparent firearms before being taken into custody. 2 minor injuries, non-life threatening, so that's the good news, relatively speaking. Jessica Tisch is the NYPD commissioner.
Subdue him and take him into federal custody. On the scene was recovered, among other things, 2 airsoft rifles and the container with the flammable liquid. Also affixed to the suspect's cart was a sign reading "ICE off our streets." During the incident, the suspect was wearing a military-style helmet. This incident occurred along federal property, and the NYPD is supporting the federal government in their investigations. Charges are yet to be filed. Our work with the Joint Terrorism Task Force and the Southern District of New York is critical to keeping our city safe And I commend the federal agents and contractors and officers who responded to the threat.
And here's what Tom Homan had to say about this. Of course, he's not surprised.
Why does he think ICE is bad? Why does he want to attack ICE? Again, because the last year and a half, all he's heard from Democratic members of Congress and sanctuary city mayors and governors is that ICE is not a real law enforcement agency. ICE is separating families. ICE arresting people in churches and hospitals, which is none of it's true. So I'm sure he's been educated by the wrong people, and that's why he's chosen to take action. Because every time they talk about this hateful rhetoric rises, there's that small percentage on the far left who will take some sort of ridiculous action because they feel emboldened because members of Congress are agreeing with him that ICE needs to go away. But let's be clear, you can attack the men and women at ICE all you want. It comes down to one simple fact. These people fail to comply with law enforcement. Even some of the major chiefs in this country who don't necessarily agree with this administration says you always comply with law enforcement. But the hateful rhetoric that ICE isn't a real law enforcement agency. I see these signs that resist. ICE are let's abolish them. They're fascists. When you keep that hateful rhetoric up for a year and a half, there's going to be that percentage of that left population that's going to be emboldened to take action because they're not a real law enforcement agency. I should resist them. All they had to do is simply comply with law enforcement. If you don't like what law enforcement did to you, then go to the courts, sue, call the ACLU, do whatever you want to do. But you should always comply with law enforcement. If they did, they'd be alive today. Now, I'm not going to comment on the investigation itself. We'll wait for it to play out. This is about complying with law enforcement, and a lot of the negative, hateful. And I said this a year ago. If a hateful rhetoric doesn't stop, there will be bloodshed. And unfortunately, I was right. And I'll tell you something else. It's not over yet. Unless they keep attacking and miscommunicating what ICE does every day, calling them Nazis and comparing ICE to the Nazi regime. Are you kidding me? And I'm not saying the whole country's convinced, but there's going to be that population that's just going to embolden to do something stupid. And I'm afraid that we're going to bury an ICE agent. I'm afraid I'm going to hand another folded flag to a spouse or a child of an ICE agent for simply doing his job. And for any member of Congress to keep attacking ICE and calling them fascists and Nazis, I said it 1,000 times. If they're a Nazi for enforcing the law, what's that make them? They wrote the law. We're not making this up. We're enforcing laws they wrote, and that they appropriate us money to enforce. Now, I'll say it once again. If ICE agents act inappropriately or illegal, they'll be held accountable, just like they were held accountable in Minnesota. Everybody, guys.
312-642-5600, alphawealthgroup.com, call and text line. NBC News, per Marco Rubio's description of how the dominant culture within our mediating institutions, starting with the press corps, minimizes leftist violence because those are their fellow travelers. My translation of what Rubio said. NBC News, fireworks set offside 26 Federal Plaza, sources say, sending smoke billowing. Was it just a kid shooting off fireworks? Had some leftover from the 4th? Is that what happened? Pretty misdirectional in nature, wouldn't you say? Burying the lead, as they say in the business. Fireworks set off outside 26 Federal Plaza, sources say, sending smoke billowing. Not domestic terrorist attack by somebody who was politically motivated, which is what the evidence presents. This is what Rubio is talking about. This is what we should be talking about, which is why I'm talking about it. Tom Homan, too, I mean, just in terms of the life he leads, because of people like that domestic terrorist yesterday.
Guys, ICE agents are mom and dads, too. They don't hang their heart on a hook every day to do this job. And it's just not attacking the ICE agents, attacking their spouses and children, and no one knows that better than me. I can't even go get a quart of milk at a grocery store without a security detail. Why? Because I'm enforcing laws in this country. It's pathetic and it's disgusting. Thanks, Tom.
Thank you, Mr. Homan.
Right. I'm a Nazi because I'm enforcing the laws you wrote. And you could unwrite. Within constitutional constraints, of course. But I'm the bad guy. That's why Tom Homan is the indispensable executive in this administration, because of those rhetorical flourishes right there in response to what happened yesterday. Totally on point. And, of course, we have all sorts of neo-Bolsheviks roaming around, incumbent office holders at the local level, candidates for federal office at the statewide level, holding form. Byron Sigjo Lopez, he's one of those DSAs on the Chicago City Council. Have you been paying attention? And he's wearing an F-ICE T-shirt while offering this rant on the street corner.
I see the courage of working people. I see you. I love you. And we will never, ever let anything like this to happen to our neighbors in Chicago. I tell you, we protect each other, we defend each other, and we love each other. So let's take the streets, let's take the ballot boxes, let's denounce not only the fascists, but those also who are silent, because silence is complicity.
Yeah, we protect each other and love each other in Chicago. That's not what the crime data says, Byron. But okay. Abdul Al-Sayed, he's the leading candidate to be the DSA nominee for Senate, Michigan, face off against Mike Rogers. At his little rally the other day featuring AOC and Comrade Bernie.
ICE has nothing to do with immigration. ICE has nothing to do with the southern border. ICE is about normalizing paramilitary force on our streets. ICE is about weaponizing the idea of immigration against the Constitution itself. ICE cannot be reformed. ICE cannot be retrained. ICE has to be abolished. You're not getting it?
Uh-huh. He seems nice. Bill, Northwest Side.
Yeah, Dan, the protesters keep saying ICE off our streets. Isn't that something they should be saying in January, not July?
I hope. Thanks for the call, Bill. Related matter on the topic, leftist-inspired violence. This hasn't gotten much attention. Gee, what a surprise. A Nebraska man arrested for threatening to commit a mass shooting in a Catholic school with a specific intention of killing nuns and the children of Nebraska's Catholic Governor Jim Pillen. 32-year-old taken into custody after a standoff with law enforcement on Friday. Has a history of violent threats, previously convicted of threatening a quote-unquote ex-boyfriend. Oh, he's gay. And setting his bedroom on fire. He posted a message on a Facebook page for Columbus Catholic Schools that read, quote, "I'm going to shoot up this school and kill Jim Pillen's children and a few nuns for funsies." Just one-offs, though. Is that what it is? Just people who are mentally disturbed, not ideologically addled. No, I don't think so. Which is why Marco Rubio's speech last week was so important, because it provides a framing of a larger discussion that we need to have, and it needs to be pushed by people who have the profile that Marco Rubio does.
It's news, opinion, insight. This is Chicago's Morning Answer on AM 560. The Answer. Sign up for the AM 560 Answer Advantage to get early alerts on event ticket sales, special discounts, and contest opportunities. Sign up today at 560theanswer.com/advantage.
If you're watching the market, you may know that gold has pulled back more than 20% from its recent highs. Silver has fallen even further. History shows that this could be the perfect time to diversify your retirement portfolio to include precious metals like gold and silver. In crisis after crisis over the last 50 years, gold fell first, then surged to new highs as the crisis unfolded. That's why Advantage Gold wants to send you a free gold investment guide valued at $49, plus a free copy of economist Ken Rogoff's best-selling book, Our Dollar, Your Problem, when you call 800-900-8000. In today's market, government debt has exploded to nearly $40 trillion, and central banks around the world continue buying gold at record levels. The smart money sees opportunity. If you're considering diversifying a retirement account with precious metals, tax and penalty-free, now is the best time to call Advantage Gold at 800-900-8000. Results vary. Consult your financial advisor before investing. Call 800-900-8000. That's 800-900-8000.
Hey, it's Sean Thompson. You know, one day it's market volatility. The next day it's conflict overseas. Price jumps, confidence drops, and suddenly retirement feels less certain. When the latest headline pushes costs higher and stokes inflation fears, it can have a ripple effect on your investments and your budget. But here's the thing. Retirement shouldn't depend on perfect timing or on the latest geopolitical noise. Tom Fortino and the Alpha Wealth Group help families right here in the Chicago area build a plan to create income you can't outlive, control taxes, minimize risk, protect your assets, and prepare an estate and legacy plan. It's their 5-pillar retirement planning. Ready to learn more? To get your complimentary retirement roadmap and a retirement analysis today, schedule a meeting with Tom Fortino and the people of Alpha Wealth Group by calling 630-864-6711. That number again, 630-864-6711, or online at alphawealthgroup.com.
We all hear the radio ads about the IRS. They tell you to be afraid, to be scared, and they try to frighten you into calling. I'm not here to do that. Tax Relief Advocates is different. TRA is here to tell you that if you owe money to the IRS, whether it's $5,000, $50,000, or $500,000, we have a solution. It doesn't matter if you're sitting in your car, at work, or with your kids. No matter where you are, call now. 800-575-6745. Don't lose hope. TRA can eliminate or reduce what you owe to the IRS.
Generous programs are now available that can give you a fresh start.
Our passion is taxes and helping individuals fix their IRS problems.
We have over 1,000 5-star reviews on Google and an A+ with the Better Business Bureau.
You don't need to be afraid of the IRS any longer. End your tax nightmare today by visiting us online at TRA.com or call 800-575-6745. That's 800-575-6745. Tax Relief Advocates. Real solutions for real people.
AM 560. The Answer.
Coming up at 6:06 is homeschooling weird and should it be prohibited? The left on the job on that score as well. It's now 6 o'clock on AM 560 WIND Chicago.
They had to abandon ship. I'm Dave Anthony, Fox News. The crew of an oil tanker attacked by Iran today in the Strait of Hormuz as the fight continues over control of shipping in that waterway with another round of American bombing.
This was the 10th consecutive night of strikes aimed at degrading Iran's ability to threaten vessels in the Strait of Hormuz. U.S. Central Command released a statement saying since early May, CENTCOM forces have helped to facilitate the transit of approximately 900 commercial vessels and 450 million barrels of crude oil. They went on to say American forces remain postured and prepared to hold Iran accountable for unwarranted aggression.
That's Fox's Trey Yingst in Tel Aviv. Mediators in Pakistan still trying to salvage the deal that had stopped the fighting, meeting today with an Iranian official. Meanwhile, this afternoon, War Secretary Pete Hegseth and the military's top general, Joint Chiefs Chairman Dan Kane, could face tough questions about the Iran conflict, especially from Democrats at a Senate hearing as they urge Congress to approve $87 billion in new military funding. President Trump is going after Canada again, escalating trade tension.
This new tariff, it's an additional 50% on Canadian goods. It goes into effect August 19th.
Fox Business Network Cheryl Casoni. Canada's Prime Minister vows to intensify trade talks to protect his country. Ontario Premier Doug Ford says they should fight the tariffs dollar for dollar.
I got to remind President Trump that 33% of the lumber, and we have better quality lumber here in Canada, comes from Canada to build their homes.
It's a primary day in Arizona with several races for Congress and governor. In South Carolina,
The filing period opens for Republicans who want to run in next month's special primary to pick a new GOP Senate nominee to replace late Senator Lindsey Graham. His sister Darlene, appointed as a senator to fill out Graham's current term after his death, tells Fox she will run to keep that seat.
He's worked so hard for so long. I can't just let that die.
America's listening to
6:02 in Chicago. We have cloudy skies. We've had some light rain showers across the area, 75. And one person is in custody after a Chicago police officer was shot on the northwest side.
We got a female shot. A male shot her outside the home.
That's when police responded yesterday to the 4600 block of North Springfield, where a woman had been shot and sent to the hospital. A suspect then held two others at gunpoint inside the home. So SWAT officers were called to the scene.
As they began to try to breach that door, that offender fired through the door and wall and struck the SWAT officer in the lower abdomen.
Interim Superintendent Fred Waller says that SWAT officer was shot in the stomach, taken to the hospital, and was stabilized. Police in the north suburbs are looking for two persons of interest after a shooting in Highland Park. That shooting happened yesterday in the 300 block of Walker Avenue. Police have released two photographs of people seen talking to the victim just moments before the shooting began. The Chicago Teachers Union blasting plans by CPS to fill a more than $700 million budget gap.
Every budget is a statement of values. Based on the proposed budget released last week, we can clearly see what CPS does not value.
CTU members spoke out yesterday against the district's proposed budget during a pair of public hearings, demanding no cuts, no furloughs, in spite of fading enrollment. One person is in custody after a deadly shooting in Round Lake Beach. Authorities say Kevin Rodriguez Ruiz was shot Sunday night in the 1200 block of Sunnyside Court. He was rushed to an area hospital and later died. While Illinois contemplates raising prices on tollways in the state, one state lawmaker wants increased transparency for tollway drivers.
If you're going to continue to charge us for the tolls, the least you should expect would be to get an exact dollar amount before you enter a toll point, and that's not happening today.
State Representative Marty McLaughlin announcing he is introducing a bill called Truth in Toll Transparency Act. The Barrington Republican saying he doesn't feel proposed toll increases set to be voted on by tollway officials in the coming months are actually even necessary right now. The increase would be a 45-cent toll per toll for iPass users and a 30% rate hike for commercial iPass users. Chicago sports, Tigers over the Cubs 8-6. White Sox beat the Rangers in Arlington 10-3. The news is a service of Fox Valley Coins. It's a great time to bring in your scrap, gold jewelry, and sterling flatware. Cash or check, offered on the spot. FoxValleyCoins.com. We'll have a check of traffic and weather coming up in 2 minutes on AM 560.
Sean Fest returns on August 28th at the Westin Chicago Northwest in Itasca. Be a part of a live, on-location broadcast of The Sean Thompson Show, including a performance of the national anthem, followed by live music, food, drinks, and an opportunity to meet Sean Thompson. Registration is free. Go to 560theanswer.com/SeanFest. That's 560theanswer.com/SHAUN Fest. Sponsored in part by LeavingIL.com and by Unique Wooden Flags. Gain insight into building strong marriages and raising godly children with Focus on the Family with Jim Daly each weekday at 11:30 a.m. on our sister station, AM 1160. Hope for your life.
If you haven't switched to Pure Talk because you're not sure their coverage is every bit as reliable as Big Wireless, why not take them for a test drive? For a limited time, Pure Talk is offering any of their plans for just $15 a month for the first 3 months, including their top-tier unlimited data plan. No contracts, no commitments. Just a great deal on a high-speed network with unlimited data from an American wireless company. Dial pound 250, say Mike Rowe, and let the savings begin.
Born on America's darkest day, September 11th, 01, the Tunnel to Towers Foundation, they have been helping American heroes ever since. Heroes like U.S. Army Sergeant William Bernard McKenna, exposed to burn pits. McKenna later died from T-cell lymphoma, leaving his wife, Dina, and 2 daughters. Tunnel to Towers honored Sergeant McKenna. They paid off the family's mortgage in honor of all of his sacrifice. Donate $11 a month. If you have a car to donate, if you have land to donate, go to their website, the letter T, the number 2, the letter T.org today.
If you're over 65 and struggling with knee pain, Joint Relief Institute offers a guaranteed way to treat it. It's non-surgical and often covered by Medicare and private insurance. It's JRI's Joint Arthritis Treatment, knee lubrication placement that's so accurate, it's 100% guaranteed and can relieve your knee and shoulder pain in 10 minutes or less. Book your risk-free consultation today and get back to walking, golfing, pickleball to cycling without pain or medication. Call 708-315-6800. Meet the provider, get an x-ray and joint consultation. Why wait? JRI has treated over 30,000 Chicagoans and performed over 400,000 procedures. You could be next. Over 5,000 5-star Google reviews can't be wrong.
Stop living in pain. Call the Joint Relief Institute today, 708-315-6800, or visit jointreliefinstitute.com. Locations in Glenview, Oak Brook, and Orland Park. That's 708-315-6800 for the Joint Relief Institute. Medicare and most private insurance plans accepted.
6:08 Team Hochberg Traffic Center time. What is it with the South Shore Line? Every time they get it up and running, something else happens. Right now, we've got service suspended as a train hit a vehicle. Both east and westbound, or just westbound side trains are being impacted right now to Millennium Station because of a vehicle strike near Hegewisch this morning. Wilmington, Route 113, east and westbound, entirely shut down. We've got a hazardous material situation, multiple cars and semis, all part of an accident. Pain in the neck this morning there. As you're traveling on the expressways and toll roads, nothing serious. Earlier accident delays outbound on the Kennedy between Armitage and Keeler. Traffic, a service of the AM 560 mobile app. Download the app, 560theanswer.com/mobile. Chicago's Morning Answer continues next. But first, check of your morning forecast in the Air Right Heating and Cooling Weather Center.
Today will be hazy and breezy with the chance of a shower in some areas this afternoon, reaching a high of 85. Tonight will be partly cloudy and cooler with a low of 59. Tomorrow, expect hazy sunshine and lower humidity with a high of 77. I'm meteorologist Jason Caterina on AM 560, The Answer.
Get the latest weather, traffic, and news updates online at 560theanswer.com. Now, from the Signature Bank Studios, this is Chicago's Morning Answer with Dan Proft on AM 560. The Answer.
Top of the morning, Dan Proft here. Jennifer Welch is really a pig, but she's also a popular leftist podcaster. I guess she was some sort of half-ass actress, too, at some point. But it's, she is DSA. And she co-hosted recently with some other ghastly Harridan named Angie Sullivan. This is the two of them, mostly in this flourish, Angie Sullivan, talking about homeschooling and how concerned they are about it, per the individuals in Angie Sullivan's Bible study group, really, who homeschool their kids. Take a listen.
You would not believe how many people in Bible study homeschool their kids. And you just think, I worry about that. And then you see those witness booklets or whatever they're called that the Duggars use, and they're like top out at 8th grade. I mean, I just think homeschooling is a bad idea from soup to nuts. I don't care if you're a nuclear physicist. I think it's just weird as that you want your kids around you all day, every day, and all night. And just the socialization. For me personally, it was that I would have gotten up on my hands and knees and strapped them to my back and crawled to get them to school every day, just to get them where I wasn't. So I don't trust somebody that wants to be with their kids 24/7. I think a lot of dumb people do it because it's just easier. And that's a concern. And I've had divorce cases that, like, moms get mad at dad. They're fighting over whose school district the kid's going to use their address. They put them on homeschool. It's like 2 or 3 hours a day at the computer. And then the kids are going just off to the races. So I just can't think of very many good things about homeschooling.
312-642-5600, alphawealthgroup.com, call and text line. Weird that parents would want to be around their kids, that much of the day. I mean, even if you homeschool your kids, it turns out, just among the research here, not to burst Angie Sullivan's bubble, but they engage in more extracurricular activities than their private and public school counterparts. So mom and dad aren't always around because they understand the importance of socialization, which is why they're undertaking to do things on their own, because they don't trust the government school district, for example. Maybe can't afford the private school option, or even don't trust that. There's a lot of reasons not to, in many cases. But it's certainly not the path of least resistance. There's a couple of incredible things that Ms. Sullivan said out loud. One is that it's weird that parents want to be around their kids. When, what do we know about raising kids and socialization? There's social emotional development, the sorts of topics that these two sentimental barbarians would normally be all about. That the parental presence and involvement is mission critical. Is this revelatory? I don't think so. And that so that's one. The one is the parents being around their kids is weird, wanting to be. And the other, of course, is that one of the others, but struck me immediately, is that homeschooling is the easy way out. That's not the impression I get from the homeschooling families I know. And by the way, I know she said, I don't care if they turn out to be nuclear physicists, but you should. You should care about the sort of educational outcomes of kids, generally speaking, including homeschooling kids, and do a little compare and contrast to have an appreciation for the different models and what they are more likely to produce. So, for example, I mean, I know this doesn't matter to Angie Sullivan. In Illinois, homeschooling students consistently outperform the government school students, and most of the private school students. They score in the 81st to 87th percentile in standardized tests, roughly 30 to 37 percentage points above the national government school averages, for example. Homeschoolers typically score 15 to 30 percentile points higher on the national achievement tests, such as the Iowa Test of Basic Skills. Nationally, homeschoolers average roughly 22.8 on the ACT versus 21 for the government school average, and score more than 70 points higher than the national mean on the SAT. Research shows that homeschooling students often thrive in college, earning an average first-year GPA of 3.37 compared to 3.08 for their peers, and graduate at a higher rate, 67% to 58%. I mentioned the participation in extracurricular activities because the sort of knee-jerk socialization like homeschooling means that your kids are chained to the kitchen table and not allowed to go outside and play or participate in sports. Examples, high-profile examples like Tim Tebow should give light to that, but we're not talking about people that are particularly intellectually curious. We're talking about Jennifer Welch and Angie Sullivan and the leftists that they're representative of. And by the way, you say, well, it's just a couple of daffy broads spewing ignorance in the direction of homeschooling families. Well, that's true, but they're daffy broads with some influence. They're daffy broads that are part of a movement. They can't be dismissed because they will be the sorts of people that target minority groups like homeschooling families. That's a minority group. Most people don't homeschool. It's a small percentage of kids that are homeschooled. That makes you a minority, not in the identitarian sense, but in the educational sense in terms of your intellectual development. Jennifer Welch, just so you have more perspective. I love to give perspective on people, present their dossier so we know who we're talking about and the kinds of things that they're inclined to do or foment others into doing. Well, I mean, there's so much here with Jennifer Welch, but how about Jennifer Welch celebrating the assassination of Charlie Kirk? How does that grab you?
Finally, if you think this Zoran thing is happening just in New York and you think people are waking up only in New York City, you're mistaken. Look at this clip of a wine mom at the No Kings March. Play the clip.
Whatever his name was?
Charlie Kirk, ma'am?
Yeah, him is horrible. Horrible.
Charlie Kirk is horrible?
Yes, I'm glad he's not here.
You're glad he's dead?
Yes.
Why would you say something like that, ma'am?
Because he was horrible on the campuses, the college campuses. Horrible person.
You know what? I do the exact same thing.
Well,
would you be glad if I would die?
Maybe. I'd have to think about it.
You should be ashamed of yourself.
You should be ashamed of yourself.
Your friend just said she'd be happy if I died. I think we need to...
So listen up, Democratic establishment. You can either jump on board with this or we're coming after you in the same way that we come after MAGA. Period. Stop taking AIPAC money. Go on an I'm sorry I took AIPAC money atonement tour if you want to stay in power. Stop missing out on these big rallies. Hakeem and Chuck should have been front and center introducing the next mayor of New York City, but no, they wouldn't show up because they're that are beholden to the same corporations that that helped Donald Trump get elected. And this is just an embarrassment. Kudos to Bernie, to AOC, to Zoran. And that woman out in somewhere middle America saying, Charlie Kirk, he was a racist, he was a piece of shit. There are so many more of us than there are of them. And these Democrats that continue to play patty cake with corporations.
So she's fully aligned with the woman that was celebrating Charlie Kirk's death. Just so we're clear. And she's got plans for anybody who triple trumped the last three presidentials.
I've had it with white people that triple trumped. Yeah. That have the nerve and the audacity to walk into a Mexican restaurant, a Chinese restaurant, an Indian restaurant, go to perhaps their gay hairdresser. I don't think you should be able to enjoy anything but Cracker Barrel. And if you want to triple Trump and you want to browbeat DEI and you want to browbeat gay people and you want to browbeat black people as you've been doing for 400 years, and you want to browbeat this generation of immigrants that come over here and open up businesses earnestly, pay their taxes. You want to demonize them and call them rapists and felons and all this shit, when the felon is the teeny weeny mushroom piece of shit, Cankles McTaco at the top of the ticket. I have had it from top to bottom. White people that triple Trump should be banned, boycotted from enjoying the best thing that America has to offer, which is multiculturalism. Get your fat asses out of the Mexican restaurant. Get your fat asses over to Cracker Barrel, because nobody wants to see your smug ass, teeny weeny, pink arm, big gut around. Nobody wants to see that. No one.
Those waffles are delightful, aren't they? Delicate little flowers. Beautiful people. High on life. Inspirational. They're not angry, maladjusted, Not an angry, maladjusted coven, basically, when you start to amass them, are they? They're just that's what I said at the outset. It probably sounded like a stark statement to some, but I think I proved my point about her being a pig. She's gross and grotesque. And so is Angie Sullivan, one of her podcast buddies. So that's the profile. The activewear Antifa you see in Chicago suburbs. These nasty women, as Trump once termed them. Truly. Tony on the south side, you're on Chicago's Morning Answer.
Well, good morning, Dan. You know what? In reference to Angie Sullivan, no one at all should take anyone seriously that looks like La Befana, the Italian Christmas witch. You know what I'm saying? Take a look at it. Compare and contrast. I'm telling you.
Not bad. True. Yeah, not bad.
Okay.
Thanks, Tony. Text from 847. It sounds like Angie Sullivan could have benefited from being homeschooled. Yeah. Mark, Oak Lawn.
Dan, thanks for taking my call. You know, I tell you, I was at, I heard this lady talk, Carrie Gress, who wrote a book. It's called Anti-Mary Exposed. And it's all about the culture of toxic femininity. And really the big things are the envy that they have, you know, the contempt, you know, and really the anger. You know, how would you like to go through life, your whole life, just being angry, you know, about stuff that, you know, killing babies and really no idea what the family is, you know, it's just, they don't want to have children. It's almost like they're taught. It goes from generation to generation to hate your children. And it's so sad because the real purpose in life is the family, and they make a sacrifice. And when you have children, you got to you can't be selfish. You know, you have to give your life to them, you know, and there's no, you know, they just don't have it. You know, it's sad.
Thanks for the call, Mark. Peter Hack taught in the government schools for 25 years. He wrote a commentary in response to what you heard from Angie Sullivan. As someone who spent 2.5 decades in education, I can say without hesitation, the most influential teacher in a child's life has never been the person standing behind a lectern at the front of the classroom. It's the person sitting across from them at the dinner table. That influence can be wonderfully positive or tragically destructive, but it's almost always decisive. Teachers educate children for a school year. Parents shape them for a lifetime. Anyone who has spent years in education knows this instinctively. We all had students whose parents were deeply engaged, reinforcing lessons, instilling discipline, and modeling responsibility. We also had students whose greatest obstacles had little to do with the curriculum and everything to do with the instability at home. Teachers matter immensely, but we've always known our influence is strongest when it's partnered with parents, not substituted for them, which is why Sullivan's comments struck me as so backward. Yes, that's well said. And I think something that's generally recognized, but things that are generally recognized as true are the targets for people like Jennifer Welch and Angie Sullivan. That's what you have to understand. It's not even that they don't know what is true, is they don't care, because they're in the business of revolution, of tearing America down. Paul in New Lenox.
Hey, I have a substitute teacher when I retired, and my daughter has 4 kids that she homeschools. And the difference between teaching in public schools and seeing how much time is wasted compared to my daughters, not that I'm, you know, I favor her, they're like geniuses. I got her oldest son is 5th grade. He's like reading at 8th grade level, and it's crazy. So I like the word daffy, definitely, and nasty put together. So you're doing a great job, Dan. Thanks for taking my call.
Thanks, Paul. Appreciate it. Roger DeKalb.
Hey, Dan. You know, I believe I heard that at the highest levels of academic feminism, like, you know, master's degrees and doctorate level, that the biography "Mommy Dearest" is taught as a young mother's hope guide, so that might explain why.
Right. Yes. Nice.
Have a great one, man.
Very good. Glenn in Orlando.
Yeah, hey, Dan. So when they come out with the book, Toxic Femininity, will you be contributing a chapter on why Dan Proft is single?
If they ask me to. Thanks, Glenn.
The stories you need to know to start your day. This is Chicago's Morning Answer on AM 560. The Answer.
At Signature Bank, going the distance for business banking customers is what we do every day. We understand that business owners have a strategic mission, a drive to succeed, a plan for growth, and don't have time to wait for a bank to respond. With Signature Bank, you not only have a banking partner that has roots right here in Chicago, but our decisions are made locally too. Signature Bank knows that when you have a question or problem about your business, you want answers. You need someone who will pick up the phone or respond to your text. You need someone who is always there for you. That's Signature Bank. We are a team that wants to get to know you and your business. Want to be Signature Bank's next success story? Give us a call today at 773-467-5630 or visit us online at signaturebank.bank. Member FDIC Equal Housing Lender.
Chicagoland certified financial planning professional Tim Stearns discusses taxes in retirement.
Most people are paying more in taxes and keeping less of their money to live and do what they enjoy. That's why we've put out the retirement tax bill calculator online. You can see with your own eyes just how much you might be overpaying. It's a valuable tool, $500 value, but we made it free for you to view and run your own numbers at MVPCFP.com. That's MVPCFP.com.
To run your retirement tax bill calculator, go to MVPCFP.com. Investment advisory services offered through Cornerstone Securities, LLC.
Welcome to another edition of Tuesdays with Tim. My friend Tim Stearns, a certified financial planner with TJ Stearns Financial Planning in Arlington Heights. Tim, how are you? Welcome back.
Doing well. Thanks for having me.
Tim, for more than 25 years, you've been helping clients achieve financial security and peace of mind. Can you give our listeners some examples of how you've helped clients over the years?
A couple of your listeners called in. They're a married couple. They're in their 60s. They were really concerned and tired of trying to manage their own investments. So their accounts were quite big, but they felt like they needed a little help with it so they didn't screw up at this stage of the game. So they couldn't afford to lose any money in the market moving forward, and trying to manage retirement on a fixed income was kind of a daunting task for them. So with about $1.5 million in 401k savings and other stocks and bonds, we rearranged their portfolios so that they had guaranteed future income, less volatility in the market, and of course tax savings. So now they have this peace of mind because they know that they have a protect and grow blueprint.
Thank you, Tim. If you're in your 50s or 60s, I want you to speak with my friend Tim Stearns, TJ Stearns Financial Planning. Tim will help you structure and optimize your savings to prepare for 20 to 30 years of enjoyable retirement. Call Tim today to schedule your free consultation and get your free Protect and Grow blueprint. Call 1-800-640-2256. Again, that number, 800-640-2256. Tell them I sent you when you call Tim at 800-640-2256.
The following is a real-life story from Trinity Debt Management.
When I was feeling the stress of too much credit card debt, I looked at two different options: debt settlement and debt management. They may sound the same, but guess what? They're not. Debt settlement seemed like a quick fix, but I found out it would destroy my credit, create tax headaches, and hit me with huge fees. They actually told me to stop paying my bills. No way, not me. Then I turned to a debt management plan developed by the team at Trinity. They worked with my creditors, lowered my payments, reduced my interest, saved me thousands, and paid off my debt. And Trinity is a Christian company, which is important to me.
If credit card debt has you down, call Trinity at 1-800-990-6976.
My name is Heather. Please forget debt settlement and remember Trinity Debt Management.
1-800-990-6976.
AM 560, The Answer.
Jake Altman was in the DSA for more than a decade, and he details what they really believe. We'll detail his details at 6:36. Now we check the headlines with Mike Scott.
Sunshine this morning, 75 degrees. Hazy with maybe an afternoon thunderstorm today. One person is in custody after a Chicago police officer was shot on the Northwest Side. Police say officers responded yesterday to the 4600 block of North Springfield, where a woman had been shot. She was then sent to the hospital in critical condition as a suspect held two other people at gunpoint inside his home. SWAT officers were called. One officer was then shot in the stomach.
After talking to the surgeon, he's expected to make a full recovery. Yeah, he went into emergency surgery in Illinois Masonic Hospital. They did a great job with him.
The suspect was eventually taken into custody and the two hostages hospitalized with non-life-threatening injuries. Police are looking for two persons of interest after a shooting in Highland Park. The shooting happened yesterday in the 300 block of Walker Avenue. A Mundelein woman faces charges after her 4-year-old son died in a house fire earlier this year. Eliani Rodriguez is charged with involuntary manslaughter. Her son, Christopher Rodriguez, died in a house fire in March. Authorities say Rodriguez left her son at home for 20 hours before returning home to find him dead. President Trump will attend the dignified transfer of 2 American soldiers killed in Iranian attacks in Jordan over the weekend. Meantime, the Trump White House is placing an additional 50% tariffs on certain Canadian goods over alleged trade discrimination. Ontario Premier Doug Ford.
We can harvest these areas and ship them down. I got to remind President Trump that 33% of the lumber, and we have better quality lumber here in Canada, comes from Canada to build their homes.
The White House says the president is simply leveling a playing field. 5 are dead after an effort to save a struggling swimmer in Ohio near Columbus. Delaware County Sheriff Jeff Balzer says it happened as a group was hanging out Sunday evening on the Shoto River in Powell, again, just outside Columbus. If you like your Fairlife milk, there may be a shortage on the shelf near you. Here's our reporter, Matt Mattinson.
Coca-Cola, which purchased Fairlife in 2020, said in a statement that the impacts of the incident are not yet known. The beverage giant added, however, that the breach has not affected product quality or safety. It's unclear when the breach occurred or when production will resume. I'm Matt Mattinson.
Fairlife has halted production of milk for now due to that ransomware attack. Summer primary season gets back underway today in Arizona. Voters will pick nominees for governor, several House seats, attorney general, and other races. Republicans will choose a nominee to take on Democrat Governor Katie Hobbs, a race the RNC now believes they will win in November. The Blackhawks' Connor Bedard yesterday spoke with reporters and said he'd be plenty excited if Patrick Kane came back to the club. The 37-year-old Kane is a free agent after spending 16 seasons with Chicago. Remember, he made his debut at age 18, helping the club to 3 Stanley Cups. Kane has spent the last 3 seasons with the Red Wings. White Sox take down the Rangers 10-3. Tigers beat the Cubs 8-6. The news, a service of Steiner Homes. Building homes is more than a business, it's a calling. Family-owned and dedicated to building custom homes with care, integrity, and craftsmanship you can trust. SteinerHomesLTD.com, Northwest Indiana's leading home builder. We'll have a check of traffic and weather coming up in 2 minutes on AM 560.
Mike Gallagher sees the hypocrisy.
The mayor of the capital city of Rhode Island is demanding that a mural honoring Irina Zarutska, they're taking the mural down. All it's about is they found out that Elon Musk supported the effort to put up the mural, and they said it's got to come down. Can you imagine those same people demanding a George Floyd mural being taken down?
The Mike Gallagher Show, weekdays at 9 on AM 560. The Answer.
Joint pain is awful when you're the person fighting through it, but I'm betting you aren't the only one affected. Maybe you love someone who struggles with joint pain. It's summer, time to be outside, moving and playing. But you or your loved one is sitting it out again. Hey, it's Dan Proft here. Get your life back. Talk with my friends at QC Kinetics. That's what's happening every day at QC Kinetics. Patients are finding real relief in their hips, knees, shoulders, and backs thanks to regenerative treatment done in the office by Dr. Caravelli and the QC Kinetics medical team. No surgery, no long recovery, just real relief. Inflammation eases, the pain lets go. I've seen the results. QC Kinetics patients are happy and wish they would have done it sooner. If you're living with chronic joint pain and want an alternative to surgery, contact my friends at QC Kinetics, longtime sponsors of AM 560. Consultations are free. Weekend appointments are available. Schedule an appointment today by calling 312-827-6261. Again, 312-827-6261. Once more, that phone number, 312-827-6261.
Your kitchen's outdated. Your bathroom feels cramped. Every day you wait, prices go up. And you keep living in a space that doesn't work. At Forever Remodeling, one team handles everything. Design, planning, and installation, start to finish. We show you your new space in 3D before we ever break ground. No surprises. With flexible financing options, the home you want is closer than you think. Visit foreverremodeling.com. That's the number 4everremodeling.com to schedule your personalized in-home design consultation.
The TV tide is turning, and millions of Americans are tuning to Salem News Channel. For breaking news, common sense analysis, and the conservative voices leading the conversation, SNC delivers the stories that matter most. Watch Scott Jennings, Larry Elder, Mike Gallagher, and many others tackling the issues facing our nation. Stream free on Pluto TV, Samsung TV, the Roku channel, and more. Salem News Channel. The news you want, the perspective you trust.
Think O'Reilly Auto Parts for all your car care needs. Get the parts and service you need fast from the professional parts people at O'Reilly Auto Parts.
6:38 Team Hochberg Traffic Center time, a service of Lowe's. Eisenhower, accident right shoulder, outbound near Addison. Traveling this morning on DuSable Lakeshore Drive. Delays on the brakes northbound right at Bryn Mawr. I-80, an accident, left lane block eastbound after Harlem Avenue. And we see delays in Gurnee beginning to relax a bit after they've cleared an accident. US 41 southbound just after Grand Avenue. During Lowe's Pro Savings Days, save more on the brand you trust to deliver on the job. Right now, get a free DeWalt 20-volt max 8 AH battery when you buy a DeWalt 10-inch 20-volt max dual bevel compound miter saw. Valid through 7/31 while supplies last. Selection varies by location. Chicago's Morning Answer continues next, but first, your morning forecast in the Air Right Heating and Cooling Weather Center. A hazy, breezy day with a shower in spots this afternoon and a high of 84.
Get the latest weather, traffic, and news updates online at 560theanswer.com.
This hourly segment is brought to you by the Alpha Wealth Group, bringing the trilogy of estate, tax, and investment planning together. Visit alphawealthgroup.com for a free report.
Now, from the Signature Bank Studios. If you're looking for the latest news, insight into what it means, and the sharpest opinion, there's only one station in Chicago where you can turn, and it's this one. We're AM 560, The Answer.
Top of the morning, Dan Proft here. Remember back during the Summer of Love when the George Floyd death was used as the predicate to burn down America's cities? You remember that because one of America's cities that got burned down in pertinent part was Chicago. And we were told that BLM, Black Lives Matter, was just an organization that sprung up to oppose police brutality. And who could be opposed to that opposition? And then some of us actually looked at the BLM offerings in terms of viewpoints and advocacy. Go to their websites, read their platforms. And it turned out that they were full-service neo-Marxist organizations. And it wasn't opposition to police brutality. It was opposition to police. Slight difference. Remember that? Presented as something very narrow and rather innocuous. And who could disagree? Which is why corporate America came in with tens of millions of dollars. so that BLM organizers could buy homes in California. Wonderful. So the same thing is happening here with the DSA. It's an innocuous group. They want to move the United States into the direction of Norway or Sweden, sort of a social welfare, small d democracy. And then you look at what they actually put out as a platform, the things they actually take, the things they actually say, and the positions they actually take, I should say. And no, it's that's not true. It's just not true. It's not even close to true. They are neo-Bolsheviks. They are revolutionaries. They want to tear everything that constitutes the American way down. And that's not me saying it. That's somebody who was on the inside for more than a decade. Jake Altman, writing in the Free Press. I was in the DSA. Here's what they really believe. I was a member of the DSA from 2010 and the 2010s until 2022. During the time, I witnessed a rise in extremism, ranging from an eagerness to collaborate with Leninist groups to a growing animosity towards the U.S. and the West. My final departure was prompted by a DSA statement that attributed Russia's aggression against Ukraine to American imperialist expansionism. That's at least a double bank shot. So what does DSA stand for? An answer to that question arrived last week in the form of a new platform. Workers deserve more. Well, and who could be opposed to that? What does workers deserve more mean? You're not supposed to ask that question. You're certainly not supposed to read the platform. Workers deserve more means no more bills for anybody. Government-run food, housing, medicine, transportation, and nationalization of all of the large corporations and essential industries. The drafting of a new American Constitution. Defunding the Department of War, slavery reparations, unlimited free abortion and gender-affirming care for all, including minors, having taxpayers pay off everyone's entire student debt, fund unlimited free or higher education for all, of course. Taking, quote, steps toward fully abolishing the police and prison system, ending all deportations, providing amnesty for all illegal immigrants, and allowing unlimited migration to America, and abolishing the presidency, the Supreme Court, and the Senate. Workers deserve more. And if you don't think that they're unabashed in the positions they've taken, then you're not paying attention. Because, for example, here's National DSA co-chair Ashik Siddiq on abolishing the Senate. This was recently in an interview on C-SPAN. They're not afraid to lay it out in no uncertain terms.
Part of what you said, for example, let's start with abolishing the Senate. The Senate is a very undemocratic institution. I talked a bit about democracy, small d democracy, and that's really important to us. We want democratic representation of all people who live in this country. So the Senate represents it's 2 senators per state, and it's very undemocratic at a basic level because a state with a small population has the same representation as a state that has 500,000 people against the same representation as a state that has 40 million people, like California does, or New York State, or Texas, or Florida, which are the most populated states in the country, but they have the same representation as a much smaller population. So we do believe that government should be proportional to the population, and that's a very basic core principle. So the House of Representatives is more democratic that way, and we just don't see the point of the Senate. Historically, it was meant to serve very wealthy people who owned a lot of land, and that's still a system that we have today, and it's something we would change. We would expand what the House of Representatives does and make it more actually representative of people who live in this country.
So would you like to abolish the Senate?
That's part of our platform, and we don't think that's extreme. We think it's a change that would help make this country more democratic.
Workers deserve more. Bill in Crown Point, you're on Chicago's Morning Answer.
Good morning, my friend. Long time no speak. How you been?
Good.
I wanted to follow up in regards to this influx and increase in communism. I mean, we have the Bernie Sanders and the Squad and so forth, but we also have this law called the Communist Control Act of 1954. Why are representatives not enforcing these? It's odd to me that we're allowing this to continue with laws that are on the books.
Thanks for the call, Bill. Yeah, I mean, there is, you can believe and advocate for positions like the DSA is taking, but you do cross a line into being a subversive at some point based on your actual behavior. Not your thoughts, not your words, but your actual behavior. Like the Weathermen, Bill Ayers and Bernadine Dorn and the gang, how they crossed the line, and how these individuals are advocating crossing the line, which also is getting right up to the line and will cross the line, as we saw yesterday in Manhattan outside the building that houses the local ICE office. But they don't want you to believe that. I mean, you get a very reasonable-sounding person like Mr. Sadiq who says, oh, it's just undemocratic. They're proponents of direct democracy, that's all. And as I said, it's just, workers getting more. Listen to Nate Friedman, who's a podcaster, talk to this DSA organizer who is one of Mamdani the commies' foot soldiers in New York City.
I know I saw a statistic, amazing for you guys. More than half of young Americans now prefer socialism over capitalism. So if you can look into the camera and give a 30-second elevator pitch on why socialism is better than capitalism.
Community. Are you tired of sitting alone and being by yourself and having no one to talk to? Being a socialist is all about community. It's about literally sitting down and having coffee with a random stranger and talking to them, talking about the game. Hell, I have hugged more strangers in this past summer because of the Knicks game, because of the World Cup, because socialism works. It's the watch parties that Zoran hosted. It's about the parties that we allow. We don't have cops hogging every single site and saying, oh, you can't be here because there's too many people. Instead of allowing people just being in their nature, a natural element of talking to each other, to bond over things we love and share. So that's what socialism is. It ain't a scary word. It ain't me taking your house. It's about me making sure your house remains in your hands and some millionaire doesn't take it from you. That's it.
That's it. Making sure a millionaire doesn't steal your home from you. Getting together, being social. Socialism, it's just being social. Hugging your neighbor, talking about the game. That's all it is. Back to Jake Altman and the Workers Deserve More platform that we just went over. Getting together with your friends, hugging them, and then moving in the direction of abolishing the police and the prison system and ending all deportations and abolishing the presidency, the Supreme Court, and the Senate. Social, being social. Workers Deserve More, Jake Altman, former DSA. The title of the new platform is meant to present a friendlier face to the world and overcome the radical reputation the organization has developed in many corners of the public. Not enough corners. And yet the document is still so radical on its face, as I just described. I mean, there's no mention of private property ownership because they're opposed to it. Yeah. Well, they're opposed to America generally because America is the bad guy in the story. We're wearing the black hat. This was an interesting stream, DSA stream. You're about to hear from a leftist DSA podcaster named Kyle Kulinski. And this was on a stream that was attended by Ro Khanna, California, Congress. Abdul El Sayed, who is the, candidate likely to be the nominee for Senate in Michigan. Cori Bush, security detail spice out of St. Louis, who's trying to make a comeback. Daria Lisa, who just won in New York and is going to be a member of Congress. Millette Quiros, who just won in Colorado, is going to be a member of Congress. This is what they tuned in to hear, which gives you an indication of where they're coming from, I would think.
And it is absolutely accurate to compare these people to Mussolini, to Adolf Hitler. We're governed by dead-eyed psychopaths and sociopaths and bloodthirsty imperialists. The U.S. government and the Israeli government, they are the terrorists. They are the terrorists. They are doing terrorism. If Iran's off the table as a regional power, that means Hezbollah can't be funded, Hamas can't be funded, the Houthis can't be funded, like the Shia Crescent falls, and then you have nothing but regional domination for Israel. There's a reason why I call Israel and the U.S. the axis of Epstein, okay? There's a reason why I've said repeatedly that they're in the midst of creating the Fourth Reich, because that sincerely is what they're doing. These are genuinely repulsive, disgusting, wretched, depraved human beings. And it is absolutely accurate to compare these people to the worst criminals in history, to Mussolini, to Adolf Hitler.
Just being social, hugging your neighbor. That's what it's about. William on the north side.
Hi, Dan. Thanks for taking my call. I just wanted to say I meet these young people all the time. They're very enthusiastic about their views, and they're not very bright at all. And I always tell them, how old do you have to be president? You have to be 35.
Mm-hmm.
And that's because they haven't lived a life yet. They really don't know what's going on, and they have to be told that they're not there. They're still stupid.
Well, I appreciate that, William. Unfortunately, there's a lot of people over 35 that for which the same conversation is warranted. Yeah. Hassan Piker, again, the popular streamer, recently featured at the College Dems confab. Back to streaming to his throngs of adoring fans, lauding Mao. Great leader. Never say a bad word. You won't find Hassan Piker saying a bad word about Mao because he wants to see Maoism modeled in this country, effectively. Sure, there were some excesses. 40 to 60 million murdered by Mao's totalitarian regime. But, you're going to break a few eggs when you're ushering in utopia.
I got stopped by a cop who thought I was like making fun of Mao Zedong, which I never would and never will. Mao Zedong is a one of the great leaders of this world, okay? A man who changed the entire universe, the entire planet. Okay? For real, yes. I mean, there was a lot of excesses, let's be real, but
sure. Yeah.
The People's Republic of China would not exist without Mao Zedong.
Yeah, boy, and I can't think of the People's Republic of China existing in any better form than it does now. I mean, there's some excesses, the Uyghur prison camps and so forth, but the persecution of Jimmy Lai, yeah. Some excesses. Let's be reals, Tom in Cherville.
Yes, I have to say what an idiot this guy is who has just said Israel wants to expand in the Middle East. They have given up land in order to secure their safety and peace. They're not expansionists. Nowhere in the world are Jews trying to be expansionists. They're all, it's just what an idiot.
Yeah, well, there's a lot of that, Tom. There's a lot of that going around, and it turns out to be dangerous. A Soviet defector, we don't have time to get into it now, maybe a little bit later in the show. We've talked about him before, but his comments are salient. Again, Yuri Bezmenov, who gave this great great interview in 1984, ironic the year, about the stages of the revolution. I mean, this DSA crowd, they're not inventing anything new. We've seen this play out before. In fact, it plays out in very similar forms, regardless of whether it's in France or Russia or Cuba. See it play out over and over and over again. And it's playing out right now in the United States. Not on the scale, thankfully, as it played out in Russia or France or Cuba, other countries, Nicaragua. But that's the direction. That's the playbook that they're working off of. Mao aficionados like Mr. Piker. We'll get to it later in the show.
The more you listen, the more you'll know. This is Chicago's Morning Answer. Morning Answer on AM 560. The Answer. Sign up for the AM 560 Answer Advantage to get early alerts on event ticket sales, special discounts, and contest opportunities. Sign up today at 560theanswer.com/advantage. AM 560, The Answer.
That sound means it's time for In-Depth History with Frank the History Teacher from Arlington Heights, because there's nothing new in this world, as I was just referencing. Just the history we don't know, and Frank does. Frank, take it away.
Good morning. The Caspian Sea, the largest inland body of water on the planet, is interestingly only 20 feet deep on average in its northern third. And it's even lower near its major source, the Volga River. So the city of Astrakhan became the caviar capital of the world, as the Soviets exploited this near monopoly on fish eggs from the beluga sturgeon there and became a source of foreign currency for them. Several hundred miles east of the Caspian lies the Aral Sea, or I should say it used to lie there. Today it is 90% gone, with old ships and tankers lying in the middle of what is now a toxic desert of windblown old fertilizer from long ago. Formerly the fourth largest lake in the world, with an average depth of 50 feet, was a major fishery and served as an oasis on the Silk Road in medieval times. It was fed by the Amu Darya and Sur Darya rivers, but the Soviets, as central planners seeking more cash, decided to transform the nearby deserts in Kazakhstan into cotton farms by diverting those waters. The result was one of the greatest ecological disasters in world history. It is well established that government, when it's not an actual threat to humans, is at best inept and inefficient. But honest conservatives also recognize it does have a limited role. We aren't anarchists like Mikhail Bakunin. Evidently, though, the command and control crowd in Canada thinks it doesn't need to manage its publicly owned forests by clearing deadwood. As a result, 3,500 wildfires a year happen in Canada, and 2026 will be worse. Prime Minister Carney blames the provincial governments, and perhaps he is right. At least this globalist is now hearing it from President Trump and Congress over what have been record worst air quality scores. But if the loonies up north can't fix this, they must realize that outright annexation of, and thereby extension of the Second Amendment into, at least their western provinces, is a future geopolitical certainty. So problem solved, except, of course, when our own Looney Tunes occupy the White House.
All right, Frank, but I mean, should the response be to put a 50% tariff on hockey sticks? I mean, how are we going to produce the next Chris Chelios, you know?
Yeah, I know. When I buy my Senators jerseys from Montreal, I'm paying an extra tariff, but I'll deal with it.
Okay.
I wore my Goldwater 64 one last night at Wrigley. So
fortunately, nobody there knew who that was, so you didn't get in any trouble.
No comments. So.
Very good as always, Frank. Thank you. Coming up at 7:07, we'll talk to Jason Brodsky about the situation in the Middle East. It is now 7 o'clock on AM 560 WIND Chicago.
Another night and day of U.S. and Iran attacks. I'm Dave Anthony, Fox News. That's from the 10th straight night of American bombing in Iran. U.S. Central Command posted video of the airstrikes hitting command centers, air defense, and missile and drone launch sites. And as Fox's Jonathan Savage reports, Iran retaliated again.
The Kuwaiti government says crucial power and desalination plants have been damaged by Iran's latest attack. It's the fourth day in a row in which Kuwaiti infrastructure has come under fire. Iran's also targeted U.S. military sites in Bahrain and Jordan, and another fuel tanker's been hit in the Strait of Hormuz. Meanwhile, Pakistan is trying to get peace efforts back on track. It's hosting Iran's interior minister for talks to salvage the crumbling interim deal.
President Trump posted on Truth Social, every time Iran kills an American soldier, they'll pay for that killing many times over. 3 U.S. troops died in an Iranian attack in Jordan last week, another killed in Iraq Saturday. Later this morning, another part of the conflict to be addressed when Lebanon's president goes to the White House, where Fox's Jared Halpern reports.
Lebanon's military is moving into what is called pilot zones in the country's south as part of a deal negotiated with the Trump administration and Israel. Under the agreement, Lebanon's military will assume control of security in some villages, ensuring Hezbollah does not have a presence as part of a broader Israeli withdrawal. President Trump has put pressure on Israeli Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu to wind down strikes inside Lebanon.
Now, the president's also turning up the trade tension with Canada, imposing 50% tariffs on many Canadian imports that will go into effect in a month, retaliating to Canada's tariffs on American products like dairy and alcohol that were in retaliation to initial Trump tariffs. Tropical storm Bertha very slowly churning south of Florida's panhandle as it moves toward land, maybe Thursday in Louisiana. It could flood coastal areas.
Here on Lake Pontchartrain in New Orleans, we could see 1 to 3 feet of storm surge.
That's Fox Weather's Brandy Campbell. America's listening.
In Chicago, we have partly sunny skies this morning, 72 degrees, and a hazy, showery afternoon ahead with a high of 84. A police-involved shooting is under investigation this morning as the Civilian Office of Police Accountability confirms a shooting took place in the 2600 block of South Drake Avenue. Police activity is seen this morning on 18th Street between Drake and Trumbull. One person is in custody after a Chicago police officer was shot on the Northwest Side.
We got a female shot. A male shot her outside the home.
Police officers responded to that call yesterday in the 4600 block of North Springfield. That woman was sent to the hospital in critical condition. A suspect inside held 2 others at gunpoint. So Chicago SWAT was called to the scene.
As they began to try to breach that door, that offender fired through the door and wall and struck the SWAT officer in the lower abdomen.
That SWAT officer was rushed to a nearby hospital and this morning is in stable condition. The suspect eventually taken into custody and the 2 hostages hospitalized with non-life-threatening injuries. Police are looking for 2 persons of interest after a shooting in Highland Park. The shooting happened yesterday in the 300 block of Walker Avenue. A Mundelein woman is facing charges after her 4-year-old son died in a house fire earlier this year. Eliani Rodriguez is charged with involuntary manslaughter. Her son, Christopher, died in a house fire in March. Authorities now say Rodriguez left her son at home for 20 hours before returning home to find him dead. Chicago sports. Tigers over the Cubs 8-6 at Wrigley. White Sox red hot, beating the Rangers in Arlington 10-3. The news, a service of the AM 560 store, T-shirts, hoodies, and more when you go to 560theanswer.com/store. We'll have a check of traffic and weather coming up in 2 minutes on AM 560.
Sean Fest returns on August 28th at the Westin Chicago Northwest in Itasca. Be a part of a live, on-location broadcast of The Sean Thompson Show, including a performance of the national anthem, followed by live music, food, drinks, and an opportunity to meet Sean Thompson. Registration is free. Go to 560theanswer.com/SeanFest. That's 560theanswer.com/SHAUN Fest. Sponsored in part by Virago and by State Farm Insurance Agent Anthony DeGrotto.
The following is a real-life story from Trinity Debt Management.
When I was feeling the stress of too much credit card debt, I looked at 2 different options: debt settlement and debt management. They may sound the same, but guess what? They're not. Debt settlement seemed like a quick fix, but I found out it would destroy my credit, create tax headaches, and hit me with huge fees. They actually told me to stop paying my bills. No way, not me. Then I turned to a debt management plan developed by the team at Trinity. They worked with my creditors, lowered my payments, reduced my interest, saved me thousands, and paid off my debt. And Trinity is a Christian company, which is important to me.
If credit card debt has you down, call Trinity at 1-800-990-6976.
My name is Heather. Please forget debt settlement and remember Trinity Debt Management.
1-800-990-6976.
If you haven't switched to Pure Talk because you're not sure their coverage is every bit as reliable as Big Wireless, why not take them for a test drive? For a limited time, Pure Talk is offering any of their plans for just $15 a month for the first 3 months, including their top-tier unlimited data plan. No contracts, no commitments, just a great deal on a high-speed network with unlimited data from an American wireless company. Dial pound 250, say Mike Rowe, and let the savings begin.
Born on America's darkest day, September 11th, 01, the Tunnel to Towers Foundation, they have helped American heroes ever since. Heroes like United States Navy Chief Shannon Kent. Kent was killed in a suicide bombing, leaving behind her husband, Joseph, their 2 kids. Tunnel to Towers honored her sacrifice and paid off the family mortgage, giving them security forever. Donate $11 a month. Maybe you have a car to donate, land to donate. Please go to their website, the letter T, the number 2, the letter T.org.
Are you turning 65 and thinking about Medicare? Or are you over 65 and haven't enrolled yet because you still have coverage at work? Either way, Medicare done correctly will be the best health insurance you will ever have. Imagine having an annual deductible of only $283. There are only 2 good things about aging, wisdom and Medicare. But to navigate the Medicare maze properly, you need a mentor. Best part? My guidance costs you nothing. Call me. I can help.
If you're tired of calling a bureaucrat at an 800 number to help you navigate Medicare, then you need a local expert on your side. Your own health insurance mentor. C. Stephen Tucker from healthinsurancementors.com is someone I know and trust. He's a 30-year licensed broker who's been educating our listeners for more than a decade. Steve, how can our listeners get in touch with you?
Thanks, Dan. They can visit healthinsurancementors.com or call me directly at 630-674-1551. That's 630-674-1551.
7:08. Let's get an update on the roads. Team Hochberg Traffic Center time. Inbound Edens Expressway, right at Willow Road. Report of an accident with big delays. On the Eisenhower, an accident on the exit ramp. It's the inbound off-ramp to the outbound Dan Ryan, causing delays this morning. An accident on I-55 with heavy tire debris and other debris, northbound 55, just after Route 126. Delays on the Jane Addams eastbound I-90 will hit the brakes right near Meacham this morning. And an accident in northwest Indiana, westbound 94, a right lane block right near the Porter and LaPorte County line. Traffic, a service of the AM 560 mobile app. Listen to AM 560 on your smartphone when you download the app at 560theanswer.com/mobile. Chicago's Morning Answer continues next. Now a check of your morning forecast in the Air Right Heating and Cooling Weather Center.
Today, expect hazy conditions with a breeze and a chance of showers in some areas during the afternoon. The high will reach 85. Tonight will be partly cloudy and cooler with a low of 59. Tomorrow, anticipate hazy sunshine and lower humidity levels with a high of 77. I'm meteorologist Jason Caterina on AM 560, The Answer.
Get the latest weather, traffic, and news updates online at 560theanswer.com. This hourly segment is brought to you by The Real Story with Jeannie Ives and Amy Jacobson. Heard weekday mornings at 11 on AM 560, The Answer. Now, from the Signature Bank Studios, this is Chicago's Morning Answer with Dan Proft on AM 560, The Answer.
Top of the morning, Dan Proft here. Our friend Colonel Jim Carafano, retired, Heritage Foundation, on with Harris Faulkner yesterday on Fox News, talking about and responding to the critiques or the advocacy from some, myself included, to quote-unquote finish the job in the Middle East as it pertains to the Iranians, of course, and specifically with respect to the nuclear program. And additionally, with respect to control of the Strait of Hormuz. Why it's not so easy to just finish the job, according to Carafano.
More of this, and because the president doesn't want to waste lives. I mean, we tragically lost some American in uniform because they're always at risk. So here's the good news, which is the strikes were relatively limited. The way they did this was relatively novel, that they had a successful strike. I'm pretty sure the U.S. is going to adjust for that, so they won't be able to do that again. And what's really important is all of our regional allies are even more with us than ever. So, and that's, I think, really important. And then the most important thing is, look, I mean, we went from saying the big deal is the Iranians can close the strait to then be saying, well, they can interdict the strait. And now they're rapidly losing the capacity to do that. So the longer they fight this war, the worse off they are. And the most important thing is, look at what a hole they're digging themselves in. Now they've got to rebuild bridges, power plants, all their military. I mean, to get back to where they were a year ago, that is just going to take forever.
I don't know about forever. Forever's a long time. There are various estimates about how long it would take them to rebuild, and part of it is contingent on the conditions under which they were attempting to rebuild. I'm not sure that the 2-month hiatus they received from military interdiction was judicious, but okay. Yes, there's no question that Iran is diminished, and that's good news. But diminishing Iran wasn't the stated objective. And the core deliverables, the must-haves, haven't changed, and they don't seem to be currently achieved. But Carafano is accentuating the positive, not just with respect to our Gulf state allies being pushed closer to us by Iran's retaliatory conduct, but also that a deterrent force is being built up against Iran with each passing day that will change the state of play in the Middle East.
You deal with the things you can deal with. What we can do is really build up the deterrent force against that. So, for example, we are in Iraq in a way that we have not been since the early days of the war. We have an Iraqi government which is cooperating with the United States more than ever. We just sealed a huge oil deal with them to bring more resiliency to the oil industry in the region. They are working to kick the Iranian militias, diminish them and get them out of the country. This was unthinkable 4 or 5 years ago. So I know people are fixated by the losses, which are terrible, and how long this is take, but our position in the region is the strongest that it's been since the end of World War II. I mean, we have been dealing with this from Jimmy Carter. Since the days of Jimmy Carter, we have never had a position in the region this strong to create a better future for the region. And then that means less trouble for us, less work for us, safe for America. And I just think that this is the price we are paying. Trust me, it is going to pay off for decades.
For more on this, please be joined by Jason Brodsky, Policy Director of United Against Nuclear Iran, and is a non-resident scholar at the Middle East Institute's Iran program. Jason, thanks for joining us. Appreciate it.
It's great to be with you. Thank you.
So what do you think of Colonel Carafano's characterization that we're in the strongest position we've been in the Middle East since World War II?
Well, I think that President Trump has undertaken historic action against the Islamic Republic. He's really the only American president since 1979 and the Islamic Revolution that took place that year who has married significant economic pressure with significant military pressure against the Islamic Republic. And that has weakened the regime to a very significant degree. So he has eroded the ability of the Iranian regime to project power beyond its borders. Does that mean that it's not a threat? Still, no. It still is a threat, unfortunately. But I think that the weakening of the regime is fundamentally in America's interest.
I feel a but coming on in addition to that. So is that a fulsome answer in terms of where we stand in the Middle East, particularly still with the Strait of Hormuz in a contentious state?
We still have work to do there. The job has not been finished yet in Iran. The Strait of Hormuz is contested. The U.S. Cannot allow Iran to try to exert unilateral sovereignty over an international waterway like the Strait of Hormuz. There are still military capabilities within the Islamic Republic that need to be degraded. There are still nuclear sites also in the Islamic Republic that need to be destroyed. There was an article overnight published by the Wall Street Journal that demonstrated that there is intelligence suggesting that Iran moved centrifuges into a deeply buried complex called Pickaxe Mountain, and that mountain is something that President Trump has spoken about in recent weeks, and I think it's going to need to be targeted.
Targeted in the sense, I mean, what the question? Yeah, well, I understand, but the question about Pickaxe Mountain was, can we disable what's inside Pickaxe Mountain just with airstrikes, or is it beyond the capacity to do it through that vehicle? Would we have to send in special forces, for example? That was a debate that we were having, several weeks back.
Yeah, I think that might call for some ground component in terms of an operation with Pickaxe Mountain, and so there is a very significant risk there. But I think that given the fact that the International Atomic Energy Agency has been forbidden by the Iranian regime to inspect as to what's going on there, and given the risk of a nuclear breakout taking place in a site like Pickaxe Mountain that's deeply buried, I think that we definitely need to take action at some point against Pickaxe Mountain.
Iran's foreign minister there, Abbas Araghchi, has made a couple of interesting statements over the last few days, including this extended sit-down he gave with a filmmaker. One of the things he said is that he's never talked to the cardboard Ayatollah there who replaced Khamenei. Never talked to him pre-war or during the war. So, that sort of calls into question, do we understand who we have been attempting to negotiate with, and is this just, is this all just a facade that we're playing sort of diplomatic whack-a-mole? And number two, he said that, and again, I understand you have to take all of this with skepticism because this is professional propaganda here. But he said that Iran long believed that war with the United States was inevitable, and they had pre-planned retaliation across the region, and entered last-minute nuclear talks largely to exhaust the diplomatic path before the U.S.-Israeli attack. That's their characterization, to give the appearance, to promote the idea that they attempted to, even though there was no serious attempt to. That's my response to that characterization, and that they were prepared to escalate, essentially, in defense of what they are otherwise inclined to do.
Well, yeah, I thought that Abbas Araghchi's interview was pretty striking. That comment that he made about him never ever having any interaction with the supreme leader, both pre-war and post-war, is really it's unthinkable for an Iranian foreign minister to say something like that, because traditionally the supreme leader has been the one who is liaised with the foreign minister under previous presidents, and Ali Khamenei was intimately involved in foreign policy, and for Abbas Araghchi to have had no pre-existing relationship with Mojtaba Khamenei, and now having never spoken to him directly since the war, it raises all kinds of questions as to his remit, as to the chain of command in Tehran, and as to whether this system is even capable of getting to an agreement with the United States. So I do think it raises some profound questions. On your second point, I think the Iranian regime has had long-planned contingencies with respect to the United States, and it has planned those kinds of strikes and has been wargaming this for a long period of time, for many years. So I do think it had been preparing all along, and I don't think it was serious about negotiating with the United States. President Trump made a good faith effort on a few occasions to engage the Iranians, and they've completely repudiated him.
Well, I mean, it almost strikes me that the Ergachi statement that he's never talked to the Ayatollah was intended to embarrass America. It's like you thought you were negotiating with us, or you thought that this was going somewhere. It was never going anywhere. We didn't even have the point, the number one dude engaged in what we were saying at the negotiating table, and maybe that calls into question how much faith we should have in Pakistani and Qatari mediators.
Yeah, I don't think that Abbas Araghchi was purposely trying to embarrass America. I don't think that was the motive in his statement. I think it was an unusual moment of candor. And in fact, there's been a lot of backlash in Tehran from the interview that Abbas Araghchi gave, because some people in the system in the Islamic Republic think that Araghchi disclosed some matters that they preferred to keep behind closed doors. So he's getting some backlash for that interview. But the diplomacy with the Islamic Republic is going nowhere, because fundamentally you cannot get a durable diplomatic outcome with an ideological regime like the Islamic Republic.
Yeah, which is something that should come as a surprise to no one.
Right.
Yeah. So capacity, we've been talking yesterday, at least a little bit about the capacity, the retaliatory capacity of the Iranians after what transpired over the weekend, including the 3 soldiers who were killed. But there was also this with respect to proxies. Houthi terrorist group in Yemen announced a total ban, quote unquote, on maritime navigation by the Saudis under the principle of blockade for blockade, citing their full readiness to respond to any reckless acts by the Saudis. So what should we understand about the capacities of the Iranian proxies in the region, in addition to the state of Iran's capacity?
The Houthi capacities and capabilities are formidable. I do think that they've taken a beating over the last few years as a result of U.S. military action. If listeners will recall, President Trump did authorize military action against the Houthis last year, especially as they were threatening the Bab al-Mandeb and the waters around Yemen after the October 7th massacre in Israel. The Houthis have been long-standing concerns here. They have advanced missile technology, and they can threaten maritime commerce. But, this is not the Houthis as a lone actor here. The Islamic Revolutionary Guard Corps from Iran are on the ground in Yemen directing these operations and these calculations that the Houthis are making. They have a representative on the Houthis' decision-making council, the Jihad Council. So I think that behind the scenes here is Iran, of course, and this definitely is a threat to American interests and those of our partners.
Megyn Kelly said recently on her show this regarding Israel and its communications, essentially suggesting that it's corrupting America's understanding of what's happening in the Middle East. Take a listen.
If you go on X, if you go on Instagram, if you go on TikTok, you're being manipulated by Israel. They're not the only ones, but boy, they are the biggest.
Is Israel the biggest manipulator online, trying to misinform for the purposes of their own interests, American public opinion?
Israel is an ally of the United States. Our intelligence communities cooperate very closely with each other. Israel has saved American lives, and the United States has saved Israeli lives, and that's a proud alliance to have. That's number one. Number two is that Israel is not the largest influence operation at all. We have Russia, we have China, we have Qatar, and other powers. So it's false to say that Israel is running the largest influence operation with an algorithm on social media at a time when anti-Semitism is exploding on social media. So there's just no evidence for that.
Mm-hmm. Just in terms of the core deliverables, Iran can't get a nuclear weapon. We want the enriched uranium, and the Strait, needs to be open. Shipping lanes need to be open. That's just a sort of standard. This is what Marco Rubio had to say on the latter. We've talked about Pickaxe Mountain and the need potentially for a ground component to obtaining centrifuges or destroying centrifuges, obtaining the enriched uranium, which is supposedly buried. On the Strait, this is what Secretary of State Rubio had to say.
Basically is that the United States, every night is taking on the burden of protecting global shipping. Virtually none of those vessels are flagged U.S. Almost none of those vessels are delivering cargo or fuel to the United States. So we are basically providing the service of protecting these ships on behalf of the world, and we're the only ones doing anything about it. So what the president is basically raising the point is, at some point, the countries and the nations benefiting from the shipping through the Straits should be able to step forward and provide at least financial assistance for the cost of providing this very valuable service. That's what the president was alluding to. Now, he pointed out after the fact as well that some of the countries who are shipping product through the Straits are investing hundreds of billions of dollars in the United States, and you'll credit that towards them as far as this effort. But I do think the world is coming to a point now where it's clear that Iran, at least some people in Iran, want to control the Straits and hold that as leverage against the world. And the world has to decide whether or not it's going to allow an international waterway to be under the control of a country like this, which is completely illegal, unlawful, and unacceptable. The United States will do and continue to do what it needs to protect global shipping, but other countries need to begin to step up and provide, whether it's hardware or finances, to help carry that burden. It is not the United States' job to protect shipping for the entire planet forever.
So read between the lines for us there. I mean, it sounds like the administration is not particularly pleased with the level of support it's gotten from Gulf state allies on this topic.
Well, I think it's not just Gulf state allies. I think the Trump administration is furious with our European allies, who have really not stepped up in a big way, given the fact that they depend on the Strait of Hormuz for their own commerce. Our European allies have been content to say, we'll engage in a demining mission once there is a broader diplomatic framework and peace deal in place. But we're not going to get involved before that time. And I think that the Trump administration is rightfully extremely frustrated with this kind of, very lackadaisical and, halting attitude towards our European allies here at a time when they depend on this strait, and it can only be the United States. I think Secretary Rubio is absolutely right on that.
So is it mission critical here? I mean, again, given the objectives, that whether we have the coalition and the support from the coalition that we desire or not, that the United States has to take control of the strait and that card to be played from the Iranians permanently before this ends.
Yeah, I think that's the direction that we're moving in. We're seeing every evening there's been a military operation to degrade the ability of the Iranian regime to threaten the Strait of Hormuz, and that's the direction of travel here. And so that's why I think the United States would like assistance from our allies and partners here. And the longer that this goes on, I think the more likely it is that some of other of our allies and partners will become more proactively involved here, because Iranian intransigence is actually helping the United States rally a coalition here. And the longer it goes on, I think we're down to U.S. interest.
Jason Brodsky is Policy Director of United Against Nuclear Iran. He's also a non-resident scholar at the Middle East Institute's Iran program. Jason, thanks for joining us. Appreciate it.
Thank you. Great to be with you.
Good to be with you. And Jason joined us on the AlphaWealthGroup.com answer line.
It's like a hot, steaming cup of information to start your day. It's Chicago's Morning Answer on AM 560. The Answer.
Are you 65 or older and dealing with chronic knee or shoulder pain? You're not alone. At the Joint Relief Institute, we've helped thousands find real relief without surgery. Our non-surgical, FDA-approved treatment uses hyaluronic gel that acts like a cushion between the bones in your knee. As we age, the cushion naturally wears down, causing painful grinding and popping. But our gel restores that cushion, allowing your knee to move smoothly again. Ready to stop the pain and get back to doing what you love? Call the Joint Relief Institute at 708-315-6800. Again, that's 708-315-6800.
Move better, live better with JRI.
Move better and live better with JRI. Contact the Joint Relief Institute today and get back to doing what you love. Call 708-315-6800 or visit jointreliefinstitute.com. Locations in Glenview, Oak Brook, and Orland Park. Call 708-315-6800. Medicare and most private insurance plans accepted. Reclaim your mobility with the Joint Relief Institute.
Chicagoland certified financial planning professional Tim Stearns discusses taxes in retirement.
Most people are paying more in taxes and keeping less of their money to live and do what they enjoy. That's why we've put out the retirement tax bill calculator online. You can see with your own eyes just how much you might be overpaying. It's a valuable tool, $500 value, but we made it free for you to view and run your own numbers at MVPCFP.com. That's MVPCFP.com.
To run your retirement tax bill calculator, go to MVPCFP.com. Investment advisory services offered through Cornerstone Securities, LLC.
Welcome to another edition of Tuesdays with Tim. My friend Tim Stearns, a certified financial planner with TJ Stearns Financial Planning in Arlington Heights. Tim, how are you? Welcome back.
Doing well. Thanks for having me.
So, Tim, let's check in on how you've been helping clients achieve financial security and peace of mind. Perhaps you have a story or two, a success story or two, an example of how you've helped clients recently.
I remember I had a neighbor who, believe it or not, was a longtime listener to your show. And he had come up to me in the yard and said he wanted to stop and smell the roses and kind of get out of his job. He was done taking the train downtown to Chicago every day and basically working 60 hours a week for a company that didn't really care about him or his family. So we started running numbers, and lo and behold, he was able to retire 5 years earlier. He's now 12 years retired. He's a grandpa. He's loving life. He, too, needed a protect and grow blueprint, and he had to make sure he wasn't leaving anything to chance for their future.
Thank you, Tim. If you're in your 50s or 60s, I want you to speak with my friend Tim Stearns, TJ Stearns Financial Planning. Tim will help you structure and optimize your savings to prepare for 20 to 30 years of enjoyable retirement. Call Tim today to schedule your free consultation and get your free Protect and Grow blueprint. Call 1-800-640-2256. Again, that number, 800-640-2256. Tell them I sent you when you call Tim at 800-640-2256.
AM 560, The Answer.
Coming up at 7:37, our weekly confab with the wirepoints.org boys, all things Illinois policy related. The slow death of, not so slow death really, of private property rights in Chicago, and the formalization of the partnership between the teachers union and the Chicago Press Corps. We'll tackle those topics and others with Mark Glennon from wirepoints.org, 7:37. Now we check the headlines with Mike Scott.
73 degrees, sunshine this morning in the QC Kinetics newsroom. And a police-involved shooting is under review by the Civilian Office of Police Accountability. A shooting took place this morning in the 2600 block of South Drake Avenue. Beyond 18th Street, police can be seen between Drake and Trumbull. Police are looking for two persons of interest after a shooting in Highland Park. That shooting happened yesterday in the 300 block of Walker Avenue. New investigative reporting revealed last week that Illinois House Speaker Chris Welch knew of misconduct by a now resigned lawmaker far longer than previously known. The Tribune investigation reporting detailed the Speaker's office was made aware of reported misconduct by Harry Benton as early as 2023, yet delayed any action on the matter until this year. House Minority Leader Tony McCombie said the investigative reporting brings into question what Democrat leadership knew and how long they knew it.
The public still has not seen the report, yet the Speaker declared the process worked. This is not accountability. The victims and the public deserve transparency.
Meantime, Democrats in Will and Kendall counties are choosing the granddaughter of a late U.S. Senator, Alan Dixon, to replace the former state representative Harry Benton. Jessica Dixon Heitman will fill the seat and serve as the Democrat nominee in the November general election. Benton resigned over sexual harassment allegations. You may recall Alan Dixon represented Illinois in the U.S. Senate from 1981 to 1993. Chicago Teachers Union yesterday protesting and blasting plans by CPS to fill a $700 million budget gap.
Every budget is a statement of values. Based on the proposed budget released last week, we can clearly see what CPS does not value.
As part of the district's budget proposal, CPS would lay off about 760 teachers and more than 800 teacher aides. The Trump White House placing additional 50% tariffs on certain Canadian goods over trade discrimination. The White House says the president signed 3 proclamations Monday targeting certain Canadian imports, angering Ontario Premier Doug Ford.
Rather than criticize and threaten Canada, your closest friends, maybe one day you're going to need our help like you did last year, and we deployed the people. I get frustrated just listening to that bunch of rubbish.
Tropical storm Bertha moving closer to the Gulf Coast with 50-mile-an-hour winds, and a federal judge in San Francisco signing off on Anthropic's agreement to pay a $1.5 billion settlement to authors and book publishers who sued over copyright infringement. Former Illinois Public Health Chief Dr. Nirav Shah pulling out of the U.S. Senate race in Maine. He ended his candidacy yesterday after the Maine Democrats held weekend caucuses to decide who would be best to succeed Graham Plattner as the party nominee. Cubs fell to the Tigers 8-6, while the White Sox beat the Rangers in Arlington 10-3. The news, a service of Goldilocks, offering Chicagoland state-of-the-art smart security systems, protecting your home or business. AM 560 listeners receive 3 months of monitoring free with new installs. Call Goldilocks, 708-889-5600. We'll have a check of traffic and weather in 2 minutes on AM 560.
Hugh Hewitt sees the president working through this.
For instance, they agreed, well, we'll never have a nuclear weapon. They agreed. Then they go outside to have a news conference where they leak that we never discussed the subject. Who would believe we never discussed the subject? And so we have a score to settle.
We have a score to settle. I think the president is internalizing a deep hatred for Iran, and it's going to come out.
The Hugh Hewitt Show. Afternoons at 2, right before Alex Marlowe at 3 on AM 560. The Answer.
It's Reveille. J.B. Pritzker is probably China's favorite governor. When Pritzker signed the Climate and Equitable Jobs Act, mandating the shutdown of carbon-based energy and giving incentives to renewable energy projects, he enticed CCP-backed Gotion to set up operations in Illinois. He then signed a deal with Chen Li, the son of a very high-level Politburo member, to open a battery plant in Manteno. The state promised Gotion $536 million in tax credits and has already given them $165 million. More is coming. Pritzker is planning on spending billions to build batteries for solar projects, another boondoggle, and Gotion will be a supplier of those batteries. To help deploy the batteries, a new $8.5 million subsidy is going to Richardson Electronics. Pritzker supports China in other ways. Over $8.6 million is designated for Chinese NGOs in his FY27 budget. The Chinese American Service League will receive $5.8 million, and the Coalition for a Better Chinese American Community, $1.2 million. These are activist groups promoting birthright citizenship, anti-ICE policy, and subsidized government housing. The latter assists in voter turnout, according to their Facebook page. And then there's our universities. Chinese students are a prominent group at Illinois' flagship University of Illinois, a land-grant institution with a mission to educate Illinois citizens. UIUC has the most Chinese students at any public university. With Trump's announcement that China stole voter data and interfered in our elections, and considering China is our number one adversary, Pritzker should cut off all subsidies to Gotion, and ethnic service NGOs should fund themselves. We also should limit what education Chinese students have access to. Let's stick to the Constitution and U.S. history. I'm Jeannie Ives. Listen to The Real Story Monday through Friday and sign up for my newsletter at breakthrough-ideas.com.
Join Illinois Family Action for the Save America Rally, 7 p.m. Tuesday, August 4th at the Bolingbrook Golf Club. Former U.S. Comptroller General David M. Walker, along with businessman and author Joe Penland Sr., will offer big, bold, and practical solutions for fixing Social Security and protecting other vital programs from the reach of those who preach for communism in America. And during the Save America Rally, hopeful messages for the land of Lincoln from key Illinois candidates Darren Bailey for governor, Don Tracy for U.S. Senate, and James Martyr for Congress. Go to IllinoisFamilyAction.org for more information. IFA's David Smith.
Join us as we stand together to save America.
The Save America Rally is free. Be there Tuesday, August 4th at the Bolingbrook Golf Club. Find out more at IllinoisFamilyAction.org. Paid for by Illinois Family Action.
Progressive Insurance. Progressive can protect your home, auto, boat, motorcycle, ATV, RV, and more. In short, a lot of things. Bundle today at Progressive.com.
Team Hochberg Traffic Center time. Stop and go on the Kennedy inbound between the Edens and Lake. An accident on the inbound Ike right at St. Charles Road. Stop and go in the Dan Ryan Express lanes inbound. You'll start tapping the brakes at 51st. Delays on Route 53 in the roadwork zone. You're backing up all the way to the Ike through Kirchhoff. I-80, accident right shoulder westbound at Harlem Avenue. Bad accident, left lane blocked in northwest Indiana on I-94 eastbound right near the Porter-LaPorte County line. Traffic is a service of Allstate. Some people know you could just save money on car insurance by checking Allstate first. Those people are probably saving a carload of cash right now, so what are you waiting for? Check Allstate first for a quote today. You're in good hands with Allstate. Chicago's Morning Answer continues next. Now a check of your morning forecast in the Air Right Heating and Cooling Weather Center. Possible shower this afternoon with a high near 84.
Get the latest weather, traffic, and news updates online at 560theanswer.com.
This hourly segment is brought to you by In the Know with Craig Bolanos, powered by VestGen Wealth Partners, Sunday morning at 10 on AM 560 The Answer.
Now, from the Signature Bank Studios.
Insert Democrat socialist here.
Runs the Democratic House floor for 30 plus years running. He's promising this and he's stealing that. Where can you get that kind of money? He's using your house like his own piggy bank. You ought to know by now. You can pay off your house here in Illinois, but you can never keep up with the taxes. Oh, how it's always been the plan to have a taxpayer pay, no doubt. Not a matter of if anymore, but when you're moving out. I said, when you're moving out.
Top of the morning, Dan Proft here. That theme music means it's time for a weekly conversation with the wirepoints.org folks. All things Illinois policy related. We'll have Mark Glennon on, the founder, momentarily. But since you heard of Mike Scott's newscast, Chicago Teachers Union complaining about the prospect of layoffs amid the annual ritual of a budget shortfall at CPS, perhaps minus the COVID era, that is. I think I'm not proponent of anybody losing their jobs, but I mean, there is, rationality that has to be applied at some point, you would think. And so just remember what's happening at CPS, which is nicely illustrated by a story we've brought you before, but I'll bring you again. The flight from CPS, like the flight from Chicago. It's getting smaller, fewer constituents, and yet the overhead continues to go up at a 45-degree angle. How does that make sense? In business, you achieve economies of scale. In government, you achieve diseconomies of scale. Chicago's Frederick Douglass Academy High School has 47 classrooms built to serve 1,000 kids. There are 27 kids enrolled there now. 47 classrooms, to serve 1,000 kids. There are 27 students. The school employs 28 full-time staff. Hard to make the class size argument there, isn't it? I mean, talk about insulting the legacy of Frederick Douglass. At 3% utilization, it is the emptiest big city school in the country. By the way, even those 27 students, 100% of seniors there, which is what? 6? 7? 100% of seniors are categorized as chronically absent, meaning they miss 10% or more of school days. No 11th grader could read or do math at grade level. The school cost is $93,000 per student as of 2 fiscal years ago. So, the belly aching about layoffs rings a little hollow when you're running a system that features schools like that. You know what I mean? For more on all this, Mark Glennon, founder of WirePoint, wirepoints.org. Mark, thanks for joining us. Appreciate it.
Hey, Dan, boy, he said it just right. What an insult to Frederick Douglass, who the school's named after. How much more absurd can this get? One party that should be implicated, big party in this too, by the way, on many of these problems is the state. These are instrumentalities ultimately of the state, and the state could shut this down in a minute if it wanted to, but they are hands off on this like they are hands off on so many of Chicago's other failures. The buck stops at Springfield on this, so we should be blaming not just our Chicago leadership, but our state leadership as well.
Yeah, we always seem to leave them out, and we shouldn't. You're right about that, particularly since CPS gets a majority of its funding from state taxpayers. One of the few school districts that does. But you asked the question, can it get more absurd than that? And the answer, you answered it, is yes. In this piece you wrote about the Chicago Teachers Union forming a alliance with the Chicago News Guild. They're formalizing what I guess already existed de facto, but now they've got a real arrangement. Explain.
Yeah. So the Chicago News Guild is kind of a parent organization. These sub-guilds that they have within them are basically the unions within the media. So there's a Tribune News Guild and a Sun-Times News Guild, and they do some of the usual work that a union would do, such as negotiating the contract, trying to get better pay and all the rest, which is fine. It's supposed to be just for media organizations, of course, but the Chicago School District has created their own guild within that, the CPR Guild. Now, all those employees aren't employees of any media organization. They're employees of the of CPS, of the Chicago School District, and they are now a media guild in this family with the others, where they share resources and help each other and such. So there's so there's a Chicago Teachers Union sort of comms guild that is now in partnership with the Chicago, the Chicago News Guild. Yeah, and it's a propaganda arm. They are all communications specialists, employees of the Chicago Teachers Union, and employed, again, not by media, but by the Chicago Teachers Union. So why are they within the Chicago News Guild at all is the first question. And, how did this get certified? What's the logic for this? It's a big deception. It's all camouflage for a propaganda operation that has now infiltrated the primary labor organization for news media in Chicago.
So, it's just, like I said, it's really good to know, but it's just formalizing what already exists. For goodness sakes, the Sun-Times was previously owned by the AFL-CIO. Talk about state-run media, and then NPR, literally state-run media. But yeah, so the Chicago Teachers Union comms people, like the people who flack for Stacey Davis Gates, are now formally fellow travelers with the members of the Chicago News Guild at the Sun-Times, at the Tribune, at the Reader, at the Pioneer Press.
That's right. That's exactly it.
That's great. Isn't that great? Wow. No, sure. I mean, so what, I know the good news is, that the Chicago Teachers Union's comms people won't be writing any of the stories for those news, quote unquote, news outlets, scare quotes, because, they don't want to step on any, everybody has to have their little fiefdom to protect their phony baloney jobs. But, they don't need to, because they have, they share the same brain, essentially, so you're going to get the same stories. But formalizing the relationship is nice. It shows you how brazen they think they could be, because they believe themselves to be completely insulated from any sort of scrutiny, accountability, or political repercussions.
That's right. And, it goes beyond schools, of course, because the Chicago Teachers Union has such a broad agenda. They have specifically endorsed this concept of sort of a universal policy position on many different issues, whether it's a sanctuary status for the city, the environment, everything. Sometimes they've stuck that into their contract demands. So it's a very radically progressive agenda. And that whole agenda is now part of the Chicago News Guild.
What? They should just adopt the new Workers Deserve More platform of the Democrat Socialists of America. Just formally adopt that, too. All the quote-unquote news outlets and the Chicago Teachers Union. Let's just, strip away the facades. Why don't we, huh?
Yep. And so, put yourself in the position of a reporter, even if you were kind of a well-intentioned reporter trying to, you're supposed to be the watchdog, of course, on government and Chicago schools and all the rest. You're writing a story on some problem at Chicago schools, like Douglas School that you just talked about, or anything else, that would potentially involve layoffs and contract rights about what gets who gets terminated in the case of school closures or something. How objective can you really be expected to be? I mean, you'd have to be crossing your sister organizations and your union affiliates to do that, and you just can't expect to have honest, tough reporting in this circumstance.
No, if you were going to be an honest and tough reporter, you wouldn't get the job in the first place at any of those outlets, as far as I can tell.
No.
I want to tackle another topic too before we have to go. The tenant rights ordinance. This is sort of milquetoast Mamdani, what Brandon Johnson is attempting to do here. But Mamdani is trying to get it. Being a little bit more aggressive. Brandon Johnson has to navigate this a little bit. The tenant rights ordinance, this is what proponents of it are saying about it. This is Brandon Johnson's brainchild and, the brainchild of the DSA crowd in Chicago and the city council and, the NGO world and so forth. This is what proponents are saying, ABC 7 News reporting.
Chicago landlords filed 20,000 evictions last year.
Standing outside City Hall this morning, a group of affordable housing advocates gathered to speak in favor of a proposal put forth by Mayor Brandon Johnson late last month that would establish just cause before landlords can evict tenants. It would also require landlords to provide relocation assistance of up to $10,000, depending on why the tenant is being asked to move.
It's a tool to try to help with gentrification and displacement. A landlord has decided Morgan Park is the next cool neighborhood, so I'm going to raise your rent by double.
And so we're going to, I wouldn't even comment. So that's the proponent's position of the just cause to not renew a lease and the imposition of up to $10,000 in relocation costs. And the opponents of this have a watered-down version, as explained in part by Alderhuman Gilbert Villegas here. Take a listen.
Proposal, however, is being countered by a coalition of alders, including 36th Ward Alderman Gilbert Villegas.
The relocation fees is something that ultimately is going to end up
being passed down to the renters.
You think?
Villegas joining others last week with a proposed ordinance of their own that scraps the just cause provision, allowing for non-renewals with required notice periods between 30 and 120 days, depending on the reason. The competing proposal also redefines small landlords, doubling the number of units they can own from 6 to 12 and eliminating the requirement they live in the building they are renting.
There are smaller housing providers that have a owner-occupied unit that may want to purchase another one.
So, what do you think there, Mark? I mean, Plan A, Plan B. And ultimately, the only difference I really see is, as is always the case with these, Mensheviks versus Bolsheviks, is pace of seizure of private property. But your reaction?
It's a seizure of private property. That's all it is. You have a tenant who's trashing your property, you're not paying the rent or whatever. Well, under Johnson's proposal, it's got to be for cause, which would be, left up to who knows who, and become very murky. And this moderate plan is almost as bad. 120 days notice to get somebody out of your property. I mean, come on. This is, like you said, it's just a light version of Mamdani's kind of project in New York. And these people just have no understanding of what it takes to create new housing, which is what the real problem is in Chicago. It's a matter of supply. We got to get more supply. We ought to be paving that road with gold for builders to get big new projects built, and instead they're making life as miserable as possible for landlords.
One other thing, too, I just had to marvel at this, given all the talk about the Bears and taxpayer money for professional sports teams, the taxpayer money for billionaires who can, and we got a budget deficit, and there's a prospect of police layoffs. Those same alderhumans approved a plan to spend $425 million of taxpayer money on the development of the 78, the lot where the Chicago Fire have started building a soccer stadium. They're putting $400 million into Mansueto's $750 million, rough numbers. But I thought Mansueto was going to finance this privately completely, and now this city government is spending $400 million while Brandon Johnson is complaining about the $100 million he doesn't have from the corporate head tax he wanted, and is threatening essentially to lay off police officers. I mean, again, to your question of can this get more absurd? You pick a topic, any topic. Yes, it can.
Yeah, and we really need to get to the bottom of where that came from, because it was my understanding that Mansueto was paying for the whole thing himself. I put congratulatory notes to him in comments and things on our site. This popped up out of nowhere as far as I can see, and I don't know if Mansueto lobbied for it or if the city came up with this or what's going on here, but we need to find out.
Mark Lennon, founder of WirePoints, wirepoints.org, all things Illinois policy related. Thanks, Mark.
Thank you, Dan.
Annie, join us on the elfwealthgroup.com answer line.
There's only one radio show in Chicago talking about today's biggest stories and telling you what they really mean. That show is this one, Chicago's Morning Answer on AM 560, The Answer.
When you've thrown over 4,000 innings like I have, joint pain isn't a maybe, it's a guarantee. For you, was it climbing ladders or too much heavy lifting? Hey, we're all in the same boat. But surgery, that was never my answer.
Baseball legend Roger Clemens knows there's a better way. That's QC Kinetics regenerative treatments that help your body heal itself. No scalpels, no fake fixes, just real relief.
What I love about QC Kinetics, these are the most respected medical pros in the country that specialize in non-surgical therapies to get you moving again.
Don't mask the pain, fix it. Call QC Kinetics now for a free consultation.
I trusted QC Kinetics. You should too.
Call QC Kinetics today and schedule your free consultation.
Call QC Kinetics, 312-827-6261. That's 312-827-6261. 312-827-6261.
Maybe you've thought about taking a cruise. Maybe you've even talked yourself out of it. But this is not just another vacation. This is the Gulf of America cruise. 7 days through the Caribbean with Mike Gallagher, Scott Jennings, Larry O'Connor, Jennifer Horn, and a ship full of people who love this country. No packing and unpacking, no complicated planning, just great destinations, meaningful conversations, and a once-in-a-generation celebration of America's 250th. This November, be there. Text CRUISE to 94878 to book your cabin today. News, opinion, insight. This is AM 560, The Answer. WIND, Chicago. Streaming at 560theanswer.com on the AM 560 mobile app, or tell your smart speaker to play The Answer Chicago.
2 funerals for Lindsey Graham. I'm Dave Anthony, Fox News. The first one will be a week from today at Washington's National Cathedral after a ceremony honoring the late Republican senator at the U.S. Capitol. Then next Wednesday, another funeral in South Carolina, where today a filing period begins for Republicans who want to run for Senate in next month's primary to replace Graham as the GOP nominee. And his sister will be on that ballot, telling Fox,
I will do it. I will take on the challenge. You know, Lindsey was always there for me, and I feel like now I need to step up and be there for him.
Senator Darlene Graham already holds that seat, appointed to fill out the rest of her brother's current term. It's primary day in Arizona. The polls just opened, with 2 Republican congressmen vying for the chance to unseat Democratic Governor Katie Hobbs in November.
Andy Biggs has represented Arizona's 5th district for 5 terms and is the former chair of the House Freedom Caucus. He has the backing of President Trump and Turning Point Action. U.S. Representative David Schweikert was elected to Congress in 2010. He's hoping to win over independent voters.
Fox's Alex Hogan. Another primary being watched in Arizona today is on the Democratic side. A progressive socialist, Kai Newkirk, trying to unseat Congressman Greg Stanton. New Fox News power rankings just out ahead of the midterm elections give Democrats a slight edge in the House as they try to win back the majority that finds the Senate even, with races in 4 states too close to call in the polling so far. The U.S. has bombed Iran a 10th straight night, and Iran retaliated again, hitting countries housing U.S. bases, including Kuwait.
Early this morning, Iran attacked another tanker off the coast of Oman, forcing the crew to evacuate the vessel, according to maritime tracking groups. This does come after President Trump issued a new warning to the regime about killing American forces in the Middle East.
That's Fox's Trey Yingst. 3 American troops were killed in an Iran attack in Jordan last week, and the U.S. military just ID'd the soldier killed in Iraq Saturday, Sergeant Michael Swinton from Fayetteville, North Carolina. America's listening to Fox.
74 degrees in Chicago at 8:02. I'm Mike Scott in the QC Kinetics newsroom. A police-involved shooting is under investigation by the Civilian Office of Police Accountability. COPA says the shooting took place in the 2600 block of South Drake. Police activity could be seen on 18th between Drake and Trumbull this morning. Police are looking for 2 persons of interest after a shooting in Highland Park. The shooting happened yesterday in the 300 block of Walker Avenue. One person is dead after being struck by a Metra train on Chicago's west side. Officials say the incident happened yesterday when the victim was hit by an outbound North Central Service train. The victim died at the scene. There's an investigation this morning after an inmate was found dead at the Dixon Correctional Center. The name of the inmate has not been released. The Illinois prison facility was placed on level 1 lockdown while the probe continues. Chicago sports. Tigers open their 3-game series with an 8-6 win over the Cubs at Wrigley, while the White Sox raked the Rangers over the coals 10-3 in Arlington. The news, a service of Goldilocks, offering Chicagoland state-of-the-art smart security systems to protect your home or business. AM 560 listeners, you'll get 3 months of monitoring free with new installs. Get peace of mind. Call Goldilocks at 708-889-5600. Time now for the AM 560 Business Beat, a service of Signature Bank.
I'm Liz Clayman, and this is the Fox Business Report.
General Motors says demand for pickups and SUVs remains strong. Its earnings for the recent quarter topped expectations and were up 30% from a year ago. GM also is raising expectations for the year, though GM says it will continue to be impacted by tariff pressures and higher costs. President Trump is imposing a 50% tariff on Canadian goods. It's to take effect in 30 days. Brent crude, the global benchmark for oil, is at $90 a barrel this morning, despite the possibility of mediation in the Iran conflict. The FAA says it's working to help the aviation industry deploy air taxis, supersonic airplanes, and it's also working to boost space launches and expand drone operation. That's your Fox Business Report. I'm Jenny Coselda. Invested in you.
Gas prices in Chicago are riding like a roller coaster. They go up, and they come down. Well, they come down a little bit, but then they go back up again. AM 560 wants to help ease your pain at the pump. Listen each weekday afternoon at 12:30 and 5:30 for the lowest gas prices around Chicagoland. And if you see a low gas price, let us know. Just text the word gas to 312-642-5600, followed by the price and location, and we'll share it right here on AM 560. The Answer. Don't miss In Grace with Pastor Jim Scudder Jr., now heard on Sunday mornings at 7:30. Tune in and find hope as Jim Scudder explores God's Word and His world each Sunday morning right here on AM 560. The Answer.
Hi, it's Amy Jacobson, and last year I hired Level 10 Coatings to give my garage floor a total makeover, and I am loving it. It still looks great, shiny, and clean. Level 10 Coatings. Now, you've got to call these guys if your garage floor is cracked, stained, still covered in salt. Don't live like that. Get it done now so you can enjoy it this summer. Level 10 Coatings. They're fast, reliable, and highly professional. Guess what? I went to work. When I came home, it was done. A shiny, new, gleaming garage floor. A quick, easy fix. And it's guaranteed never to chip or peel. Why? It's not an epoxy job. It's better. Level 10 uses polyurea, which is much better than epoxy. So schedule your free quote today and mention me, Amy, to receive $500 off. Visit level10coatings.com. That's level, the number 10, coatings.com. Or call 855-510-2628. Staff are local and ready to answer questions. Level 10 Coatings, your premier concrete coating experts.
If you haven't switched to Pure Talk because you're not sure their coverage is every bit as reliable as Big Wireless, why not take them for a test drive? For a limited time, Pure Talk is offering any of their plans for just $15 a month for the first 3 months, including their top-tier unlimited data plan. No contracts, no commitments. Just a great deal on a high-speed network with unlimited data from an American wireless company. Dial pound 250, say Mike Rowe, and let the savings begin.
Born on America's darkest day, September 11th, 01, the Tunnel to Towers Foundation, they have been helping American heroes ever since. Heroes like U.S. Army Sergeant William Bernard McKenna, exposed to burn pits. McKenna later died from T-cell lymphoma, leaving his wife, Dina, and 2 daughters. Tunnel to Towers honored Sergeant McKenna. They paid off the family's mortgage in honor of all of his sacrifice. Donate $11 a month. If you have a car to donate, if you have land to donate, go to their website, the letter T, the number 2, the letter T.org today.
Man, I love this place. I've been surfing here since I was a kid. Now, seeing my grandson out on the water, it means everything to me. Watching him and taking in the blue waves, the sea breeze, the blurry horizon.
If you have geographic atrophy, or GA, subtle changes in vision could mean it's progressing toward irreversible vision loss. Izervay is proven to slow GA progression and could help preserve your vision for longer, so you may keep seeing the world around you. Izervay, or avacincaptad pegol, is an eye injection. Don't take it if you have an infection or active swelling in or around your eye. Izervay can cause eye infection, retinal detachment, or increased risk of wet AMD. Izervay may cause blood in the white of the eye, blurred vision, or a temporary increase in eye pressure. Do not drive or use machinery until vision has recovered after an eye injection or exam. Ask your retina specialist how you can slow your GA with Izervay. To learn more, call 1-855-IZERVAY or go to izervay.com. Paid for by Astellas Pharma.
Take the journey of living a happy, successful, and meaningful life through God. Listen to It's Time with Dan Lights, Sunday mornings at 9 on our sister station, AM 1160. Hope for your life.
8:09, Team Hochberg traffic center time. Waukegan, an accident, Belvedere westbound right at the Tri-State this morning. An accident in Lake Villa, Route 59 southbound just after Grand Avenue. Wilmington, cleanup of an accident from much earlier this morning continues east and westbound Route 113 between River and Essex remains. Tough sledding this morning had been shut down completely for several hours. Indiana, westbound Porter-LaPorte County line, an accident blocking a right-hand lane. Stop-and-go traffic on the Tri-State between St. Charles and the Toohey Toll, and delays on the Stevenson this morning inbound at First Avenue. Chicago's Morning Answer continues next. But first, check of your morning forecast in the Air Right Heating and Cooling Weather Center.
Today will be hazy and breezy with the chance of a shower in some areas this afternoon, reaching a high of 85. Tonight will be partly cloudy and cooler with a low of 59. Tomorrow, expect hazy sunshine and lower humidity with a high of 77. I'm meteorologist Jason Caterina on AM 560, The Answer.
Get the latest weather, traffic, and news updates online at 560theanswer.com.
This hourly segment is brought to you by Goldilocks, offering smart security systems to homes and businesses. Call Goldilocks at 708-889-5600.
Now, from the Signature Bank Studios, this is Chicago's Morning Answer with Dan Proft on AM 560. The Answer.
Top of the morning, Dan Proft here. So the primary proselytizer for the Save America Act, Utah Senator Mike Lee, took to the Senate floor again to excoriate his recalcitrant colleagues into moving with all due speed on the Save America Act. That it is not a lack of time, but a lack of spine that presents the problem.
Both simultaneously be back into session in the Capitol until, wait for it, September 14th. Mid-September. This is the last week, absent some change in the respective chambers' meeting schedules. The last legislative week until mid-September, which will take us to just, what is that, 6 weeks before the November election? That is unacceptable. We don't have a lack of time, Mr. President. We have a lack of spine. Don't ever confuse lack of time with lack of spine, because they're two very different things. If we truly lacked time, that would be one thing. We've got time. We're just choosing not to use it. We're choosing to use it differently, and I would add very poorly if we don't take this up. Take it up now and stay on the bill until it darn well passes. The Senate should stay here tomorrow, this weekend, next week, through weekends and long scheduled recesses, as long as it takes. If opponents want to block it, let them do so in public. If Democrats want to filibuster this bill, let them stand and speak like actual senators, actually filibustering, because that's what filibustering is. And if they don't show up to do that, then we call the question. We call the vote, and we do so at a simple majority, because that's what our rules allow us to do with votes when they don't filibuster. But you can't have the benefit of filibustering if you're not willing to filibuster.
That's a good point. You know, we talked to Will Chamberlain from the Article 3 project yesterday about the prospect that this is going to move, and he is very cynical on the prospect that it's going to move, as am I, for all kinds of obvious reasons that we've talked about over the many, many months we've been talking about this topic intermittently. And particularly now with the president's national address last week on this topic in part. Reconciliation that is being proposed in the House probably doesn't go anywhere. Preserving the filibuster, is the argument being made by those proponents of trying to get reconciliation, SAVE Act, as part of a budgetary bill past the parliamentarian. Will Chamberlain thinks probably unlikely. I agree with him. But this matter of forcing the Dems to actually have to filibuster rather than the quote-unquote zombie filibuster, they indicate they're going to filibuster so you don't make them do it. You don't make them essentially go through the motions. I think that's even less defensible than opposing the SAVE Act itself, like a Lisa Murkowski is, like a Tom Tillis is. And Mike Lee had more to say on that topic.
Mr. President, one way or another, we have to get this done. The American people are asking us to act. The president has asked us to act. The only thing standing in the way of this bill passing is the Senate. And it's specifically our slavish devotion to the zombie filibuster. But really, our slavish devotion to the zombie filibuster is not about the zombie filibuster or any kind of filibuster at all. It's slavish devotion to the truncated, predictable, light-duty legislative work week. It is that, coupled with the cloture standard, that has created the modern zombie filibuster mess in which our Democrat colleagues were able to keep the Department of Homeland Security at least partially defunded for months and months out of every year. And now they're wanting to use the same trick to make sure that our elections are not secure. Shame on them. Shame on all of them. Shame on anyone who is trying to do that. And for that matter, Mr. President, now that it's become abundantly clear that we've identified 200...
For more on this, please be joined by Ali Triolo. She is the Republican National Committee Election Integrity Communications Director. Ali, thanks for joining us again. Appreciate it.
Hey, thanks so much for having me this morning.
So despite Mike Lee's yeoman-like work on the Senate floor there, it seems pretty unlikely that those who are holdouts in the Republican caucus are going to move. Is that a fair read on where things stand?
You know, President Trump, he is a master negotiator. So I wouldn't count it out just yet. He's been coming to Capitol Hill. He's been meeting with John Thune. He's been meeting with our senators. And I think the temperature is even higher given President Trump's address just a couple days ago, where he is peeling back the curtain to the American people and showing that we have foreign interference. 220 million Americans, their voter information stolen by Chinese foreign interference. That is unacceptable. Also, President Trump proving all of the hundreds of thousands of non-citizens on our voter rolls. And I think moving forward, if anyone is opposing the Save America Act after knowing and seeing all of the proof that our elections are not secure, that's going to be pretty hard to sell to voters.
Well, I mean, Senator Lisa Murkowski, for example, in Alaska, she's doing the Potomac two-step on this. She's supportive in principle of the goals, but it's just too draconian. It's difficult to implement in her state. We need a start date past 2026 at least, and she hasn't been able to get amendments to the language of the SAVE Act that satisfy her concerns. I mean, that's what she wrote in the Wall Street Journal just a few days ago in an op-ed entitled "Why I'm Voting Against the Save America Act." So, for example, it doesn't seem like she is particularly movable unless there are sticks that can be deployed behind closed doors. And the antipathy that some of these lame ducks like Cassidy and Tillis have for Trump as well, McConnell too, just suggests that the numbers aren't there, which is what Thune has basically been saying for months.
Well, I know that there is a lot to talk about regarding the Republican Party, but what I do continue to reiterate to your listeners and to anybody in America is that Democrats have been opposing this common sense legislation over and over again, voting no every single time for months now. Why do Democrats oppose the Save America Act? The only reason that it leads me to believe is that they do not want secure elections. They want to cheat in our elections. And at least we have Republicans coming forward saying, this is what we need in order to get this done. There is some form of movement there. But when it comes to Democrats, they flat out say no. And that's wrong. 80% of Americans want photo ID to vote, and they should be listening to the public.
Is there any prospect that anybody on that side, not named John Fetterman, is movable on this, from that we should be, paying attention to or pressuring a person that may be open-minded on the other side, other than Fetterman?
Yeah, I mean, obviously, we want to pressure every single one of them to do what is right for our elections. But, you know, it's very difficult to make any sense of the Democrat Party, clearly just taking a look at the way they've ran the replacement of Graham Plattner in Maine. They want to say, oh, no kings in America, even though they handpicked his successor, and Democrats within their own party have come forward and said the way that they went about replacing him was not secure, was not fair. There was no integrity. They were disenfranchised. It's all of the tropes that they claim Republicans are. Democrats are a party of hypocrites. Whatever they say, they do the opposite. So obviously, I'm not putting too much stock in them miraculously doing the right thing. But I think when it comes to voting in November, everyone should remember who stood for this country and who didn't. And certainly the Democrats are not doing that.
So going back to, you mentioned the president's speech last week, as did I, and going back to some of the revelations in his speech about the vulnerabilities in the system and the attempts that were made by both foreign actors like the Chinese communists, as well as domestic actors like Biden's FBI folks. What, in addition, or perhaps without the SAVE Act, can the president and Republicans do to address some of the integrity concerns that were raised by the president in his address?
Well, I think it's a great thing that you and I are talking this morning because the RNC, the Republican National Committee, there is no one else in our conservative ecosystem doing what we do. Right now, we have 160 active election integrity cases across more than 30 states where we are holding states accountable for breaking the law and defending common sense legislation that we want to see nationwide. Recently, we just heard from the Supreme Court that they'll be taking up our proof of citizenship to vote case. We've been defending this in Arizona. And next term, the Supreme Court is going to be hearing this. And we're hopeful that we can see more states impose this common sense legislation. We have also, launched 6 different lawsuits across multiple states that have been allowing people who have never lived in those states to vote in their elections. We had a landmark win out of North Carolina. So for us, we're using all the tools that we have to defend the ballot box, both on the litigation side as well as boots on the ground investment. We have 17 state directors in all of our target states that are devoted just to securing the ballot box and election integrity measures. And I know this is so long. My last thing I want to say is this week is also our week of action where we need patriots to step up and help us protect the ballot box. They can go to protectthevote.com and sign up to be a poll worker or poll observer. We need eyes and ears in the room to make sure that these elections and these ballots are being counted fairly.
Well, and I assume that's particularly true in states like the one President Trump talked about last week in his address, Michigan, where you don't have friendly or election integrity-oriented secretaries of state and state officials, and in what looks to be a very competitive Senate race and a possible pickup opportunity for Republicans. So maybe it's less mission critical in Texas, where you have people more serious about ballot integrity, or Ohio, where you have people more serious about ballot integrity. And so a disproportionate share of resources need to be devoted to states that are not so serious about said topic, like Michigan. Is that right?
Oh, I'm so glad you're bringing this up because yesterday, actually, in Detroit, the Board of Elections had a public testing event where they were able to, show the public how their electronic voting systems were working. And we actually had RNC officials there monitoring the process, monitoring the way the ballots were being counted to make sure that no funny business is happening leading up to November. So we're doing everything we can to defend the ballot box. We hope Congress passes the Save America Act, and President Trump on his side is unveiling the truth to the public. He's also enacting common sense executive orders to strengthen security around mail-in ballots in our elections. But the saddest part about this conversation to me, Dan, is that there is half of the nation, the Democrats, who seem to not want secure elections. And I just want to know why, other than they must want to cheat. There's really no other logical explanation.
And there was also progress on that score of mail-in ballots. There's this litigation surrounding what the post office can or can't do with states that are non-compliant with the president's executive orders on the topic. And recently there was a victory in the direction of allowing the post office to compel compliance if they're going to process those mail-in ballots. Yes?
Yes, you're exactly right. And just taking a look at mail-in ballots in general, there are so many countries around the world that have security measures when it comes to voting that are much stronger than what we have in America. Proof of citizenship, paper ballots, photo ID, hundreds of nations around the world. So America is the greatest country on earth. We know that. And we need to have the most secure elections on earth. That is the bare minimum. And I think that Republicans are doing everything they can to get us to that point.
Allie Triolo is the RNC's Election Integrity Communications Director. Allie, thanks so much for joining us. Appreciate it.
Thanks for having me.
And she joined us on the alphawealthgroup.com answer line.
This is the morning show more Chicago radio listeners are choosing. This is Chicago's Morning Answer on AM 560. The Answer.
Foundations of Freedom, a look at America's founding principles and the leaders who shaped our nation.
In 1862, Abraham Lincoln signed the Morrill Act, helping states create colleges focused on agriculture, mechanics, science, and practical education. The principle was not centralized control, it was opportunity. Lincoln's Morrill Act reminds us that America can support education without surrendering education to Washington. Why did it matter? Because a free nation needs citizens equipped to work, build, steward, and govern themselves. Scripture gives work a sacred weight. In Genesis, God placed man in the garden to work it and to keep it. Proverbs honors the one who works his land. Paul warns against idleness and calls believers to earn their bread. Why does that still matter today? Because education should form capable people under God, not dependent subjects under bureaucracy.
Your kitchen's outdated. Your bathroom feels cramped. Every day you wait, prices go up. And you keep living in a space that doesn't work. At Forever Remodeling, one team handles everything. Design, planning, and installation, start to finish. We show you your new space in 3D before we ever break ground. No surprises. With flexible financing options, the home you want is closer than you think. Visit foreverremodeling.com. That's the number 4, everremodeling.com to schedule your personalized in-home design consultation.
Each morning, the newsmakers and the newsbreakers shaping today's conversation are heard on the alphawealthgroup.com answer line on Chicago's Morning Answer. When you need answers about what's happening in your world, you turn to AM 560 The Answer. And when you need answers about how to prepare for and protect your retirement, you turn to the Alpha Wealth Group, now the proud sponsor of the AM 560 Answer line, right here on Chicago's source for news, opinion, and insight. AM 560 The Answer.
Networks, streaming services, retail chains, and tech giants are all adding plus to their names. But where did the concept originate? We may be biased, but we think these big wigs found their inspiration for plus at Hassellus Mattress. Hassellus showrooms are employee-free. Give your mattress a try with no pushy sales guy. Plus, our 35 beds from the top 5 brands start at $293. Plus, unbeatable prices on Tempur-Pedic. Plus, free next-day delivery and setup. Plus, free haul away and disposal of your old mattress. Plus, 60-month interest-free financing on select Tempur-Pedic with approved credit. Plus, a $300 MasterCard gift card with your Tempur-Pedic mattress. Plus, a ruggedly handsome spokesman with a smooth radio voice. Get all this, plus a whole lot more when you shop at Hassellus Mattress. Or maybe we should change our name to Hassellus Plus. Nah. Open 9 to 9. Find an employee-free showroom near you or shop online at hassellus.com.
The following is a real-life story from Trinity Debt Management.
When I was feeling the stress of too much credit card debt, I looked at 2 different options, debt settlement and debt management. They may sound the same, but guess what? They're not. Debt settlement seemed like a quick fix, but I found out it would destroy my credit, create tax headaches, and hit me with huge fees. They actually told me to stop paying my bills. No way, not me. Then I turned to a debt management plan developed by the team at Trinity. They worked with my creditors, lowered my payments, reduced my interest, saved me thousands and paid off my debt. And Trinity is a Christian company, which is important to me.
If credit card debt has you down, call Trinity at 1-800-990-6976.
My name is Heather. Please forget debt settlement and remember Trinity Debt Management.
1-800-990-6976.
For months, you've been hearing ads about Virago Immune Support. I have to tell you, this stuff is for real. I had an occasion to not be feeling well on a remote broadcast. I took it, and it is the real deal. And the stronger your immune system, the stronger your body defends against diseases, viruses, and everything else. That's why Dr. Huber created Virago, a liquid immune booster supplement. You take it daily. It's a blend of 23 nutraceuticals working in synergy to maximize effects and boost your immune system. It's the nutraceutical cocktail for an immune system, antiviral, anti-inflammatory, antioxidant. Virago even protects your heart, your kidneys, your liver, all in a unique liquid supplement for better absorption. Do yourself and your spouse a favor. Order a bottle of Virago today online at myvirago.com. That's myvirago.com. Use coupon code IMMUNE to save 30%. Maha and Virago, making America healthy again.
John was an active man. He'd go for runs, walk the golf course, and always take the stairs instead of the elevator. But then bone-on-bone knee pain got in the way and affected his mobility. It became too painful to even go for walks. And when it seemed like John's only option was knee replacement surgery, a friend told him about the Joint Relief Institute and their affordable, non-surgical knee pain relief. John met with the Joint Relief Institute and discovered their lubricating gel treatment could rejuvenate his lost cartilage. Safe, effective, no surgery. Long story short, John is now back to being active without pain or medication.
There is an alternative to knee replacement surgery. Stop living in pain. Call the Joint Relief Institute today, 708-315-6800, or visit jointreliefinstitute.com. Locations in Glenview, Oak Brook, and Orland Park. That's 708-315-6800. Medicare and most private insurance plans accepted. Reclaim your mobility with the Joint Relief Institute.
Maybe you've thought about taking a cruise. Maybe you've even talked yourself out of it. But this is not just another vacation. This is the Gulf of America cruise. 7 days through the Caribbean with Mike Gallagher, Scott Jennings, Larry O'Connor, Jennifer Horn, and a ship full of people who love this country. No packing and unpacking, no complicated planning, just great destinations, meaningful conversations, and a once-in-a-generation celebration of America's 250th. This November, be there. Text CRUISE to 94878 to book your cabin today. AM 560, The Answer.
Coming up at 8:38, we'll talk to Rachel Bovar from the Conservative Partnership Institute about her contention that, as we need to do with the Senate Republican caucus, conservatives need to up their game when it comes to federal and Supreme Court judges. That's 8:38. Now we check the headlines with Mike Scott.
75 degrees. In the QC Kinetics newsroom, an officer's weapon apparently fired during an arrest attempt in Chicago's North Lawndale neighborhood early this morning. Officers were trying to arrest a man for possession of a stolen car in the 1600 block of South Drake when that man tried to disarm the officer. Police say that officer's weapon did discharge. No one was hit by the gunfire. A man shot and wounded early this morning in the Wentworth Gardens public housing development just south of Rate Field. A 35-year-old man was hit by gunfire in the 3700 block of South Wells. Charges are pending this morning for a man accused of shooting a woman and a Chicago police SWAT officer in Chicago's Albany Park community yesterday. Chicago police say a 67-year-old woman was shot and wounded around 11 a.m. inside a residence in the 4600 block of North Springfield Avenue.
We got a female shot. A male shot her outside the home.
Police say officers responded. She was sent to the hospital in critical condition. The suspect held two others at gunpoint inside of the home, so SWAT was called to the scene.
As they began to try to breach that door, that offender fired through the door and wall and struck the SWAT officer in the lower abdomen.
Interim CPD Superintendent Fred Waller.
After talking to the surgeon, he's expected to make a full recovery. Yeah, he went in emergency surgery in Illinois Masonic Hospital. They did a great job with him.
The suspect was eventually taken into custody. There is another long shot and last gasp offer of privately owned land for a new Bears stadium in Chicago. State Representative Curtis Tarver is throwing the Hail Mary, saying the Bears should take a closer look at more than 300 acres of undeveloped land near 85th and Lakeshore Drive. Tarver says if Hammond is being considered, there's no reason South Chicago should not be part of that conversation. Chicago Teachers Union is blasting plans by CPS to try and fill a more than $700 million budget gap.
Every budget is a statement of values. Based on the proposed budget released last week, we can clearly see what CPS does not value.
CTU members spoke out yesterday against the district's proposed budget during a pair of public hearings demanding no cuts in spite of fading enrollment. President Trump will attend the dignified transfer of 2 American soldiers killed in Iranian attacks in Jordan over the weekend. The Trump White House is placing additional 50% tariffs on certain Canadian goods over alleged trade discrimination and wildfire smoke. 5 are dead in Ohio after an effort to save a struggling swimmer in a river near Columbus. And Secretary Pete Hegseth testifies before the Senate today, joined by Joint Chiefs Chair General Dan Kane at a hearing before the Senate Appropriations Committee. Chicago sports. Cubs fell to the Tigers 8-6, while the White Sox took down the Rangers in Arlington 10-3. The news, a service of the AM 560 Advantage, where membership has its privileges. Join today at 560theanswer.com/join. We'll have a check of traffic and weather coming up in 2 minutes on AM 560.
Sean Fest returns on August 28th at the Westin Chicago Northwest in Itasca. Be a part of a live, on-location broadcast of The Sean Thompson Show, including a performance of the national anthem, followed by live music, food, drinks, and an opportunity to meet Sean Thompson. Registration is free. Go to 560theanswer.com/SeanFest. That's 560theanswer.com/SHAUN Fest. Sponsored in part by Class A Insurance, owned by Thomas Iacenta.
Chicagoland certified financial planning professional Tim Stearns discusses taxes in retirement.
Most people are paying more in taxes and keeping less of their money to live and do what they enjoy. That's why we've put out the retirement tax bill calculator online. You can see with your own eyes just how much you might be overpaying. It's a valuable tool, $500 value, but we made it free for you to view and run your own numbers at MVPCFP.com. That's MVPCFP.com.
To run your retirement tax bill calculator, go to MVPCFP.com.
Investment advisory services offered through Cornerstone Securities, LLC.
Welcome to another edition of Tuesdays with Tim. My friend Tim Stearns, a certified financial planner with TJ Stearns Financial Planning in Arlington Heights. Tim, how are you? Welcome back.
Doing well. Thanks for having me.
Tim, for more than 25 years, you've been helping clients achieve financial security and peace of mind, which has to be rewarding. Doing it a long time. You've got a lot of success stories on a daily basis, I'm sure. Can you give our listeners an example of a family that you've helped out recently that comes to mind?
We had a 65-year-old call who had been listening to your show, and he called us and he said, he wanted to know, do I have enough assets? I'm really tired of working. I'm burnt out, etc. And he didn't know if he had the resources, and he didn't have the knowledge to get to the answer of that. So we helped him prepare a Protect and Grow blueprint. And by doing that, we helped position his money for income and cut back on the risks that they had in their current portfolio.
Thank you, Tim. If you're in your 50s or 60s, I want you to speak with my friend Tim Stearns, TJ Stearns Financial Planning. Tim will help you structure and optimize your savings to prepare for 20 to 30 years of enjoyable retirement. Call Tim today to schedule your free consultation and get your free Protect and Grow blueprint. Call 1-800-640-2256. Again, that number, 800-640-2256. Tell him I sent you when you call Tim at 800-640-2256.
Foundations of Freedom, a look at America's founding principles and the leaders who shaped our nation.
In 1862, Abraham Lincoln signed the Morrill Act, helping states create colleges focused on agriculture, mechanics, science, and practical education. The principle was not centralized control, it was opportunity. Lincoln's Morrill Act reminds us that America can support education without surrendering education to Washington. Why did it matter? Because a free nation needs citizens equipped to work, build, steward, and govern themselves. Scripture gives work a sacred weight. In Genesis, God placed man in the garden to work it and to keep it. Proverbs honors the one who works his land. Paul warns against idleness and calls believers to earn their bread. Why does that still matter today? Because education should form capable people under God, not dependent subjects under bureaucracy.
This hourly segment is brought to you by Saving the American Dream with Jim Martyr. Straight talk for law-abiding lovers of America. This Saturday evening at 7 on AM 560, The Answer.
8:39, Team Hochberg Traffic Center time, a service of Aleve. Lombard at accident, Swift and North Avenue. A disabled semi on I-80 blocking a right lane just east of Richards. Veterans Memorial Toll. Big slowdowns northbound between the Army Trail Toll and I-290. Stop and go traffic on Lakeshore Drive northbound between the Stevenson and Monroe, and on the Stevenson on the outbound side, a center lane blocked with a disabled vehicle right at Kedzie. At some point, body pain may creep in and become your reality that day. But Aleve is here to keep you moving. Don't let pain hold you back. One pill gives you up to 12 hours of body pain relief. Try Aleve today. Use as directed. Chicago's Morning Answer continues next. And now a check of your morning forecast in the Air Right Heating and Cooling Weather Center. High of 84 this afternoon, partly cloudy, a little bit cooler overnight with a low of 60.
Get the latest weather, traffic, and news updates online at 560theanswer.com. Now, from the Signature Bank Studios. If you're looking for the latest news, insight into what it means, and the sharpest opinion, there's only one station in Chicago where you can turn, and it's this one. We're AM 560, The Answer.
Malat Quiros, she is the DSA candidate in Colorado 1, the upset victor against a long-term incumbent a few weeks back that now is scheduled to be part of the neo-Bolshevik caucus within the DSA party, or just a member of the neo-Bolshevik party. I think I'm moving more in the direction of the latter description. But anyway, recent podcast, Ms. Quiros offered a vision for the DSA, the vision the DSA has, that, dare I say, sounds a lot like replacement theory, but certainly implicates positions that courts have taken, and frankly, the majority on the Supreme Court took in the birthright citizenship case.
I think it's particularly important, not just for our community in Tigray, but communities of the global South, period, right? There's a certain reckoning that we are going to have with the global world order as it exists today, and the way that it fundamentally will have to shift going forward, right? The responsibility that we have as Americans, the recognition that is going to be required of us, of the exploitative and extractive nature that we play on the global scale and the global stage, is only going to be challenged if we are getting represented by people who understand that on a fundamental level, right? And that means getting more immigrants into office. That means getting more people who have heritage in the global South into office, because that's where those decisions are made specifically.
And to get them into office, you have to get them into the country, I think. For now, until, we buy the world Coke and a smile and live in complete harmony in a borderless world. Rachel Bovard is the Vice President of Programs at the Conservative Partnership Institute. She joins us now. Rachel, thanks for being with us. Appreciate it.
Good morning. Thanks for having me.
So the thesis of the piece that you wrote for The Federalist is essentially that, and this is punctuated by, for example, the birthright citizenship decision in Trump v. Barbara, is that conservatives need to up their game. We're spending a lot of time right now talking about conservatives upping their game in terms of the composition of the caucus in the Senate and what they're willing to do. The lack of spine, not time, as Mike Lee said yesterday. But as it pertains to the selection of nominees for the Supreme Court and for federal courts writ large, we need to up our game. And what do you mean by upping our game?
Well, it goes back to the idea that, for a long time, the filibuster existed for judges. It wasn't used until really the early 2000s when Democrats started filibustering Republican judges. But the theory always was this specter of 60 votes prompted Republicans to put forward judges that, if necessary, could gain the support of Democrats. You had the Federalist Society come into place to really do a good thing, which was to swing the pendulum the other way from this sort of judicial freewheeling that existed in the 70s and 80s to a more textualist, originalist-based approach. However, two things have happened. The filibuster no longer exists for judges in the United States Senate. They are confirmed at simple majority. Mm-hmm. And the second thing is that, almost exclusively now we vet judges for their adherence to textualism and originalism. And that is a good thing, but it's almost become an overcorrection to the point where if you're a textualist, Republicans say, rubber stamp, we confirm you. Well, we saw the consequences of that with Amy Coney Barrett. Only the threshold only being textualism is no longer enough because increasingly the court is considering questions of self-governance, of sovereignty, of nationhood. All of those things now must be raised to equal your adherence to textualism. Okay, it's great that you're a textualist, but do you also agree or can you articulate a theory of the case for a nation? What is your opinion about sovereignty and citizenship? All those things the right now needs to be testing for because, again, Congress could solve a lot of these questions, but they don't. The judges do, and so we need to vet them appropriately.
Well, I mean, is it clear that Amy Coney Barrett wasn't asked questions behind closed doors, meeting with senators about some of the issues, which she ultimately has adjudicated in a way that has left some people a bit perplexed, myself included? I mean, she's been on the right side of a number of issues, including Dobbs and Chevron and presidential immunity and affirmative action. But she has missed some huge ones, Murthy and Barbara. So therein lies the problem and why people are upset with her. I understand that. But it doesn't mean that even if we applied a more strict standard or tried to kick the tires a little bit more with her, that we would have known she would have gone the direction she did in the birthright citizenship case, do we?
I think it's an interesting question because I do think there could be more aggressive vetting on specific issues. I don't think she was ever asked, do you think, what is your opinion on that, the natural law? What do you think about whether and what comprises a nation and the role citizens play in it? Mm-hmm. These are very specific questions, but, there may be ones that we need to start to ask. I also think, for a long time, the right has really vetted candidates for judicial temperament, again, adherence to textualism, originalism. All of these things are good and we should not throw them out. But I do think we need to supplement them. We need to look at people's careers and say, for instance, how do you vet for something like courage, right? Because that is what we need on the bench. We need more Alito, we need more Thomases, and that is courage. You vet for something like that by looking at a judge's career and saying, what have you done that cannot be explained by a client? Right? When have you taken a position that was unpopular because it was something you believed in? Those are things we really need to start to look at. And to be honest, it's going to completely change the heuristic the right uses for judges. Because right now, we look for sterling legal credentials. We look for judges that have never stepped outside the line on anything. And I think we need to start to look for principled stands that maybe have cost them something, because that is what they are going to need to do on the highest court in the land if it's confirmed.
I agree. I mean, I think you're right on. I mean, I think how you're thinking about this is spot on in terms of how do we test for courage, but it's really difficult to do. One of the example you just gave is a good leading indicator, but still, because, what you were subjected to maybe as a law professor or a lower court judge is nothing like what you're going to be subjected to as a Supreme Court justice. And, you have some courage, but do you have enough courage to face something that you can only appreciate once you're in that rarefied air? I mean, it's really tough, but I mean, I agree with the thinking. And so it sort of calls to, we don't want people with no records, which, is a position that a lot of Republicans take is, better to be amorphous and not have much of a record. So there's not these things that they can pull apart and attack. Instead, we want people with robust records and in terms of writings as a professor and rulings as a judge.
That's right. This augurs away from the traditional way we've told, everyone from law students to lawyers to judges on down. We've said, stick to the straight and narrow. Don't say anything, that might rock the boat, and then you'll get confirmed. What we now need, again, because of the type of issues that are coming before the court, which are really questions of self-governance, we need to know where people stand. I wrote a piece a couple of years ago that people got very upset about, but I said this actually makes the case for someone like a senator being appointed to the Supreme Court because they voted on issues. They have a record. We've seen where they are. And, we have 3 Supreme Court clerks currently serving in the Senate, Ted Cruz, Josh Hawley, and Mike Lee.
Yeah.
We know where they stand on every issue. So
yeah, I mean,
pointing that out.
I think you're right. I mean, Trump's. You said it a couple weeks back. The people wanted him to appoint Cruz if there's a vacancy to get him out of the Senate. Whatever reason. I mean, Cruz or Lee. I think those are good examples of people that actually have the chops in terms of their legal dossier. And you say you're right. I mean, they have a political record, they have speechified, and they've got a voting record, and so on and so forth. So you can have much more confidence in where they're going to be. Not to mention their comments on cases like Trump v. Barbara and Murthy and these other cases and Dobbs and so on and so forth. So, I mean, that makes a lot of sense. So I assume the argument goes you apply that up and down the federal judiciary, so including at the district and appellate court levels, too, because those are prospective Supreme Court justices.
Yeah, that's exactly right. I mean, district and appellate court are the farm team for the Supreme Court. So we're not just talking about how we vet Supreme Court nominees. We're talking about how we vet everybody that we appoint to the bench. Because the future, the current sitting district court judge is potentially a future Supreme Court justice. So we need to be looking at all of these things. What
did you take away from the hearings last week, not just with two fronts. The security piece, which is sort of obvious. I mean, in an era, as Marco Rubio nicely outlined last week in his speech, of organized leftist violence as the means to political ends and an assassination attempt on Brett Kavanaugh's life, that more security for judges to insulate them from harm seems like a fair request to make. But then the other piece of it, too, how Kagan upside down when it came to being essentially a flack for the eco-supremacist lobby.
I fully support more security for the Supreme Court. In fact, after that attempt on Brett Kavanaugh's life, there was an effort to fund more security for them at that point, and Democrats blocked it routinely.
Yeah.
So, it's really unfortunate that this is where we live now. Political violence of any kind should be condemned, but this is where we are. So I fully support more funding for the Supreme Court. I don't fault Amy Coney Barrett for making the case for it. But it was disappointing, I think, to see Justice Kagan, who many believe is, the sharpest of the liberals on the Supreme Court, just prove that she's, nothing more interesting than a baseline progressive on a lot of issues. And that was, again, unfortunate.
Well, but it also sort of speaks to how the right needs to up its game. I mean, you see what they're doing. You have an illustration there with Kagan, and that was a as you say, an unfortunate moment for her. You should at least have read what you're putting your name on, so you know what you're talking about. It can offer some kind of defense. It's kind of pathetic, but I mean, these are roll call votes for their positions for the most part, and frankly, if you have a certain worldview and judicial philosophy, then we should know where you're going to be on seminal issues like an interpretation of the 14th Amendment as it pertains to birthright citizenship.
No, that's exactly right. And I think it goes back to this idea that simply vetting for textualism is no longer sufficient. We have to be asking deeper questions about judicial philosophy and about sort of where you are on ideology as well on a number of these issues. I think these are really important things. And again, it goes back to a quote I included in my piece from Justice Alito, which I think is apt here. He said, and I'm paraphrasing, but he said, an originalist judge has no choice but to follow the law, but we do not have an idiotic or asinine constitution. So if you're coming to idiotic and asinine conclusions, you're probably doing it wrong. That is where, I align myself with that view of originalism, and that's what we need to start vetting for. What does the Constitution actually say? What did the founders or the people that wrote the 14th Amendment believe? Because we must assume they were operating under a moral and rational framework that did not include the children of cartel members, or their wives coming to the United States 38 weeks pregnant, and those cartel babies now having the full benefits and rights of U.S. citizenship, including the ability to run for president. That is ludicrous.
Or another asinine illustration. We found that was circulated, and people knew, but it was circulated after the decision was rendered. But American hospitals that are trying to monetize this birthright tourism for the purpose of citizenship. They've got marketing campaigns in foreign countries. Come to America, have your baby here, and because we'll get Medicaid reimbursed, and then your kid becomes a citizen. I don't think that's what the founders envisioned.
Right, and if the conclusion that you're coming to is that the founders did, you have become a textualist that is lacking any context whatsoever. Your eyes have crossed. You need to reboot and restart.
There you go. Rachel Bovard, Vice President of Programs at the Conservative Partnership Institute. Rachel, thanks for joining us. Appreciate it.
Thanks so much.
And she joined us on the alphawealthgroup.com answer line.
This is Chicago's Morning Answer.
Your show keeps me alive during the week. There's nobody I'd rather listen to between 5 and 9 in the morning than you guys.
On AM 560, The Answer.
Foundations of Freedom, a look at America's founding principles and the leaders who shaped our nation.
In 1862, Abraham Lincoln signed the Morrill Act, helping states create colleges focused on agriculture, mechanics, science, and practical education. The principle was not centralized control, it was opportunity. Lincoln's Morrill Act reminds us that America can support education without surrendering education to Washington. Why did it matter? Because a free nation needs citizens equipped to work, build, steward, and govern themselves. Scripture gives work a sacred weight. In Genesis, God placed man in the garden to work it and to keep it. Proverbs honors the one who works his land. Paul warns against idleness and calls believers to earn their bread. Why does that still matter today? Because education should form capable people under God, not dependent subjects under bureaucracy.
Each morning, the newsmakers and the newsbreakers shaping today's conversation are heard on the alphawealthgroup.com answer line on Chicago's Morning Answer. When you need answers about what's happening in your world, you turn to AM 560 The Answer. And when you need answers about how to prepare for and protect your retirement, you turn to the Alpha Wealth Group, now the proud sponsor of the AM 560 Answer line, right here on Chicago's source for news, opinion, and insight. AM 560 The Answer.
What's with the ladder?
And the bowling ball.
I'm testing the unsmushable Qualix Ultra Foam in Penny Mustard's Motion Sectional.
By dropping a bowling ball on it?
Among other things.
Like what?
Let's see. Kettlebell, cinder block, giant bag of sand, tractor tire, a full set of encyclopedias.
You don't have to do this.
The Qualix Ultra Foam seats in our Motion Sectionals have already been proven to stay supportive and comfortable for the life of the sofa.
Plus, it's a motorized recliner that allows you to adjust to the exact centimeter of comfort.
If you'll excuse me, these heavy items aren't going to drop themselves.
Wait, are you also dropping a dog on the sectional?
No, that's a St. Bernard to rescue me when I get trapped under all this stuff.
The Forever Comfortable Motion Sectional, American made with a solid wood frame and hundreds of fabric and leather options, starting at just $62.95 at Penny Mustard.
7 Chicagoland showrooms.
PennyMustard.com.
Unsmushable versions of what people want.
Penny Mustard Furnishing.
The TV tide is turning, and millions of Americans are tuning to Salem News Channel. For breaking news, common sense analysis, and the conservative voices leading the conversation, SNC delivers the stories that matter most. Watch Scott Jennings, Larry Elder, Mike Gallagher, and many others tackling the issues facing our nation. Stream free on Pluto TV, Samsung TV, the Roku channel, and more. Salem News Channel. The news you want, the perspective you trust.
AM 560. The Answer.
The COVID mentality persists in the body politic. Here's one woman's reaction to the threat of cyclospores in her lettuce.
Y'all, so the CDC is saying that all produce is contaminated with parasites and all this other kind of stuff, and I'm just going to make sure I am protecting me and my household. So I'm going to go ahead and wash my lettuce before I eat it. I went ahead and just put my drainer in, sprayed it with some Dawn dish soap. I put just a capsule of bleach, and then I went ahead and sprayed it until I got all the suds and all the bleach out. Now, I did go ahead and clean it really well. I had to put my hands in it and make sure I really got everything off all of the leaves, because I do not want my kids or my husband to get the parasites. We cannot.
Yeah, but you also might not want them to get sick or die from ingesting bleaching your lettuce. So COVIDian. It's now 9 o'clock on AM 560 WIND.
The midterm elections are only 15 weeks away. I'm Dave Anthony, Fox News, and ahead of the voting, with control of Congress at stake, Fox News Power Rankings just came out this morning.